All right, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of By the Numbers, the second this week, episode 108. I'm your host, Richard Lewis. Joining me as he always does, my co-host and recurring guest, Duncan Doran Shields. Sam was here; he was doing some DJing. So all the gang is together again. How are we all doing today?
Yeah, I'm fine, mate. Not bad.
It's not a rhetorical question. Genuine small talk. It's going to be another thin filler episode, guys. Because I don't know how much more of this ESL versus Flashpoint drama can we milk for fucking attention. I don't know. You want to milk it some more?
Still plenty of milk in it, still plenty.
Yeah,
of milk
okay,
Go with that. Plenty.
Yeah, all right then.
I'll just say this, Richard. I wanted to know your
take udders.
Because as
go on.
Oh, you were lagging for a second. It's all right. Basically, if people don't know, at the moment, Richard is entirely neutral on this entire affair. I mean, obviously, people could say our relationship in theory puts a level of bias, but I wouldn't say it's ridiculous. Like, we've obviously had disagreements over fairly major things in the past.
Yeah,
but I would say this. I get why if someone just doesn't care about industry stuff and they just want to watch the league aspect, right? I can almost understand why they'd find it annoying that people are still tweeting. I would say maybe just get the fuck over yourself and get off twitter.com. You know, it is just a platform for opinions. So I've never really understood that angle myself. You'll notice you don't find me ever tweeting people please stop tweeting these things, because I just don't read their Twitter anymore. I even do this revolutionary thing where I just don't follow people. I know none of you people watching can do that because 230,000 of you still follow me. So continue telling me I'm bad at Twitter while literally objectively proving I'm basically a god among men. But okay, put that to one side for a second. Don't want to get ahead of myself.
Yeah, definitely. Let's just put that to one side. The god among men speak.
Here's the thing that I can't handle, though.
Yeah, what's up?
People who are in the industry doing this thing, right, where they try to make it like it's like they won't acknowledge any of the things I'm saying about ESL on the basis that I work for a competitor of ESL, which carries two implications. One, either I'm making up what I'm saying, or two, what I'm saying just isn't relevant. And yet I'm talking about things that these people in any other context would claim to really care about, like people being paid late, players not getting the best deals, teams lying to players. These are all mega hot button issues, which one of them alone, especially even in smaller quantity, could be that could keep people going for a week. And like I even said on Twitter, God forbid that the tournament organizer that did any of those things had people born in the former Soviet Union. That'd be the end of the fucking world, wouldn't it? But I'm amazed. I get there's a lot of people where the irony of this is they're pretending I'm the biased one, while every single one of these twats who won't say anything or actually is now against someone speaking out, literally is friends with someone from ESL or worked for ESL in the past. It's the clique in esports is actually ridiculous. Because the problem I have with this is, right, there's only basically about, 5 people, that's being generous, me, you, a couple of other people who speak out about issues like this ever. And their logic is, now apparently, because I make money, I'm just supposed to never speak about anyone's issues anymore, even though we desperately need people already to speak up on these things.
Yeah, but this is part of the problem, isn't it? I mean, the reality is, if you put yourself in a position where, like you say, you're making money, you essentially dampen the kind of effect of the words that you have, because people have an easy out to not believe you because you're being paid, by one of the entities. This happened to me when I was at E-League. Remember, I said to everybody when I went to E-League, I'm quitting journalism. I'm not going to be doing it anymore. But then, in 2016, it was fucking hell, all this shit's still happening and nobody's talking about the stuff that I was talking about. I left a vacuum. It should have been filled. It's not like there's people out there who can't fill it, but nobody did fill it. People chose not to for whatever reason. So it was if I'd stuck to it and stuck to my word, we wouldn't have had the Phantom Lord story. I mean, I can't even remember how much shit I did in 2016. I mean, I think Refresh and all that was 2017, wasn't it? But anyway, I was still working at E-League while I was doing this. And people were trying to shut me up. Famously, Nicola Nyholm did it. He emailed E-League and was like,
"Good guy." Is anyone noticing the trend there? Good guy, right?
Yeah, no, really good guy. Yeah, very trustworthy. And then he publicly denied it.
Also his way.
Also his way. Even though I saw the email directly with my own fucking eyes, so but whatever. But the reality is, every time I spoke on an E-League issue, all that credibility had built up, all that long-standing service to the CS community, it didn't count for shit anymore. I was just another shill. And, you know, there probably were some times where I had arguments over critique of E-League. Like, for example, I think there was an issue with some of the tech where we were expanding 720 to 1080 or something because of how television works. And, you know, people couldn't get native 1080 streams sometimes on the E-League stuff. And I was like going, yeah, well, you know, whatever, who fucking cares? And it's like, obviously I can understand why that's an issue for some people. That is a big deal. But I was being very dismissive at the time because I wanted to show allegiance and loyalty, you know, to my employers who'd given me this tremendous opportunity. But then there were other times where it was like, you know, for example, I think it came up again recently over the Valve response to who owns the Go TV rights. Right, yeah. Where we were categorically told by Valve at E-League, actually, you can't stop anyone using the Go TV. So I don't understand what changed because, you know, that's what we were being told uniformly, regimentally at the time. You know, maybe I wasn't in the meetings, maybe my executives and bosses lied to me about it, but there were a couple of instances because you can imagine what, you know, TV network executives are like. They were like, well, wait, they're showing Go TV, shut that down, you know, get rid of it. Yeah. And we were told categorically, no, you can't do that. Go TV's for everybody. So, I know, really, really strange. But again, of course, at the time, I was trying to tell people about, like, you know, yeah, there was a mistake. It was done in error. We've had clarification now. We're going to fix it. And everyone was like, boo, shut the fuck up. Fat bald cunt, you work for E-League. I'm like, fucking hell, like, you know, like how many years have I got to give you of not making money and not taking opportunities so I can stay neutral and put reports out and you believe them? Like, how much more do I have to deny myself? What, another 15 years? You know, will I be allowed to make some when I'm fucking, you know, 50 fucking 3 or 54 or whatever the fuck? Can I have some money then, please? Like, so it is ridiculous, but it comes with a territory. I mean, it's like I said to you on the last podcast. I think where you guys have veered into now is every time ESL make an announcement, every time there's a league thing, it's like we got Semler in there, we got Duncan in there. And I thought Tosspot was right. I did a stream yesterday, so again, full transparency.
Fuck Tosspot. The same guy who worked for Twitch, and then the second he left Twitch was posting like thought of the day type posts like, well, you know what? I think Twitch does need more competition in this space. Like, your opinion means nothing. Give me a fucking break. You never said shit when you were there for 3 years, mate. I've literally, before this league even started, said the teams in it suck. I have 1,000 times more integrity than someone like that will ever have in one fucking...
Yeah, sure. No, I agree.
Fingers, mate. Fuck people.
But the point you made was still a good one, and one I agree with, and one that I intimated towards you yesterday, which was just, you know, none of this is the talent's fight. And
yeah, I'm not like there's exactly where everyone's failed to understand. I'm not saying any of these things because I'm talent for this league.
No, I get that. Yeah, absolutely. I know you would still be ranting about this stuff
whether
anyway.
I worked for them or not. That's the whole point, basically. What I was kind of alluding to is chance it'd be a fucking fine thing to walk away from this thing where I have to be a martyr in esports every 3 months. You think I want to say half the shit I've had to say on the internet? Do you know how many times I've been there going, well, I'm sure some of these other people who literally claim to be mad virtue signalers and don't really care about this, they'll definitely speak up about whether or not this person should be, you know, whether they should be counting this one. Oh, crickets then, right? So I'll just say the thing that's really unpopular then. Now I'm just getting all the hate directed at my character rather than even the thing I'm discussing. It's actually boring at some point in time.
No, of course it is. I've been there, mate.
Anyone who thinks it's like, you know, the end of the second one, the Dark Knight. The Dark Knight is one that at the end is like the whole thing where he goes like, you know, we're going to chase him, son, because we have to. And he's like, it shows like what a martyr he is for that. Right. That's only cool in a movie because the credits roll and you don't have to see that guy's life. Like that blows. To actually be the person where you're just a designated hate target. It's just boring. It's not even that it's that emotionally driven. It's just boring eventually. You're just like, so again, I'm the only person saying it. Even though, by the way, like I alluded to in my tweets today, 1 million disingenuous twats, including some of the names previously mentioned, they'll roll up to you at an award show and they'll shake your hand and say how they respect what you do and how you love how you speak out. Never put a single foot themselves out the door, take a chance. Never actually say anything that matters from them in any way.
Yeah, but that's why they love you.
You know the whole reason, by the way, why I don't give a fuck what Tosspot thinks about this particular issue. What Tosspot, guy who's worked with ESL and is friends with fucking everyone there. Well, I wonder if he comes down, Rich, on the side of, shall we expose all the fucked shit that ESL does? By the way, did he say anything about ESL paying late? No big deal. Or did he come down on the side of, why can't we just stop talking about ESL? Which side did he come down on, I wonder? Oh, the predictable one. It's almost like he's the shill. Oh, he is, provably. Cool. Right, we've solved that part. We've solved the first segment of the show is who's the shill. Turns out the answer this week, old school commentator from Call of Duty Tosspot. I wouldn't say like,
and he's not. I'm not the only one.
This is sensation. This is whatever. This is we'll just leave it.
What is happening? It's just
I never liked him anyway, mate. So I don't give a fuck on that one. You can be mates with me if you want.
Well, no, I will retain my friendship.
I still just remember him as some twat on ES Reality talking bollocks out of his arse when he didn't know what he was on about 20 years ago. So I'd see not much has changed except we're not on ES Reality anymore.
No, I was going to say that.
Changed the domain. That's all we done.
I have noticed something. I will say, like pretty much all of your hardcore grievances go back to ES Reality, which is like so fucking mind blowing to me because that like you were on that site 20 years ago, Duncan. Like when's it gonna fucking stop? Like you know what I mean?
This is why though. I'll tell you a real reason why.
I know. Go on.
Because here's what's mad. People wouldn't know this. I'm the one who buried most of these issues over the years, where when I met these people, I just decided, start fresh in person, don't do that. But here's the mad thing, and this will sound like a really counterintuitive point, but the reason why the real beefs in esports are the ones from that era or with HLTV.org when we were all in 1.6 is because since that was the era that nobody was thinking about what they posted on the internet, because you never thought it'd come back to bite you, people actually were who they are. Like they were legit, like they would really tell you their thoughts. And they would like if they thought you were a cunt, they would tell you were a cunt. If they had a vendetta against you, they'd pursue it. So in a weird way, in the modern day, it's way harder. Like the amount of times, this might sound mental, but the amount of times I've seen someone, like I've seen their name the first time in esports, and I thought, I'll have a look if this person's ever tweeted at me. And then they've just tweeted like all abuse from years ago when I didn't even know who they are. And I think, well, that just ruins it, doesn't it? Like I could have just met this person now. They could have been a perfectly reasonable person. And we would have had no problems. So in a mad way, I actually appreciate that era because at least you knew where you fucking stood.
True. But then again, though, do you think they've ever done that when they meet you? And they go, I can't wait to meet Thorin. I'll just have a look and see if he's ever tweeted at me. And then, of course, you have.
I stand by everything I've ever said. So fuck them. I hope they got, I hope the feelings got hurt twice. Yeah, good.
But there we are then. Yeah, there we are then. So no, but the point where I was headed with this was that I do agree, that what Tosspot was saying is right, and that I think one of the things that's kind of like listen, the community are being stupid, like there's no doubt about that. What they do is. Morons think in binary, right? So it's like 1 0, 0 1, 1 0. Everything's like a yes or a no. Everyone's bad or evil, bad or good. Sorry, everyone's it's either evil or like you're completely pure and virtuous. And no one thinks in shades of grey because that requires like nuance, requires you to be educated. It requires you to sort of like include context into your thinking. Morons can't be bothered with any of that. It's too much for them. So. In this issue, like what's happened is that what started out as like kind of refreshing, the brevity and the directness of the approach from not just you. This isn't just you I'm talking about. Everybody on the Flashpoint project was really refreshing and people liked it. But then as more and more has happened and more has transpired, and it's clear nothing's really going to change. ESL are going to be ESL. Flashpoint are doing their thing. The community have kind of gone, yeah, well, we're sick of that now. What was refreshing a month ago is no longer, quenching our thirst. And they're going to blow up everything you say and everything Semler says, everything the talent says. And it's going to be put through the prism of these guys are only saying this for the money. It doesn't matter that I know, anybody who knows you should know you would be an outspoken proponent on these particular issues regardless. But that's how it's going to come out. And this is why I was saying on my stream the other day, like, first of all, why aren't Flashpoint executives coming out and doing it? Why isn't, Michele doing it? Why isn't somebody else doing it? And telling you guys, yeah, you should lay off now because when you go on air, you need to be liked by the audience. They've got to like you. You've got to be charismatic, got to be warm, there's got to be a relationship there, So just leave it here for now because we're getting closer to March when it's all going to start. So, I agreed with Tosspot on that point. And I think the other thing as well is it's like you can make ESL look like chumps by just like leaking all the cool shit you're gonna do rather than rather than sort of like, so for example, if the big thing is going to be the broadcast, give me some teasers about what's going to be on the broadcast. Like show me some of that stuff, and then you'll be in everyone's good books again. Because also, not only do they think in binary, they only remember the last thing you did. So I think that's just where we're at the point that right now. Like, trust me, if the deals are as bad as some people are implying over on ESL, we're going to know after a season or two. Because if you think those wonderful partners that signed on the dotted line aren't going to get back to leaking stuff to journalists, ratting ESL out, calling them out in public, talking about broken promises, you're mad. Obviously, they're going to do that. Meanwhile, if Flashpoint's got like a really good product, suddenly it's going to look like an appealing prospect if ESL do drop the ball. So, that's kind of like where I'm at with it mentally. Also, as well, I know like Scorched Earth in CS. I've never liked that approach, because what I'm always worried about is how long it's going to take for the fields to grow back.
Yeah, but this is part of the problem. Who created the beef for Flashpoint versus ESL? Who created it?
Well, obviously it's ESL.
That's the stupidest part of this. So as usual, you should know about this, Richard.
Yeah.
Who enjoys a scenario where someone can just take a swing in your face, and then if you strike back, everyone's like, "Well, no violence around here, lads."
No one likes it.
I'm sick and tired of that.
But you know enough about like societal expectations that like if the bully hits the kid that they've bullied for fucking months and got away with it, and you take the swing just as the teacher's coming around the corner.
Oh, of course. By the way,
you're getting fucked.
I'm certainly not saying I expect to walk away from all this clean, but this is the thing I can't handle is this. All I'm doing is be consistent in what I have always done in my career. I've actually made it pretty clear in a tweet the other day. I stand against lying. That's it. That's probably my
absolutely.
number one
And I agree with that. I
hate liars because the stupidest thing is, right? This is a perfect actual discussion for this topic of the esports industry. The reason why fans can tolerate lying is because they always think it just comes part and parcel of success for some reason. It's really bizarre to me, because the greatest people I've ever met are also on my side. They're about being secure in what you're doing, because what you're doing is legit and you're prepared, you've mastered your craft, and you're trying to actually, as honestly as you can, communicate with people so that you can have better relationships, so you can improve like your teamwork in a company, so you can get the message across to people who would fuck with your product because it's legit. To me, every time you lie, it's like a really low-level shortcut to try and get something in the short term. It doesn't even work long-term, because nearly all the lies get outed eventually, or people figure out you weren't quite kosher. So the bizarre thing is, like, my whole take is this. I know that it annoys people. It's like Blast Pro Series last year. There was a point last year where people were just like, you shut up about Blast Pro Series. Like, no, not until what they are doing and the lies they tell and the misdeeds they are undertaking stop. That's the whole premise. I don't stop until it stops. Like, I'm just going to keep going. And like, some of it's a feedback loop. Like, I obviously wouldn't do it if they didn't do it. But like, it's also just the fact that like, I literally think of it like, I guess in some mad scenario, you can think of it as, I'm like the Punisher from fucking Marvel. Like, my premise is, I can't stop people lying and doing fucked up shit in esports. It's going to happen no matter what. But I can make a consequence. At the moment, there is no consequence. Like, what's bonkers is the ESLs of the world can lie about literally everything if they want, continually, and there is never a consequence. They don't even get the bad PR on occasion, because as you said, the bizarre thing is, the one area they're at the moment doing all right in PR is that people really do just think, well, they're just a company, so of course they scam, business is business or whatever, which is like, whereas because we're people, we obviously don't get held to that standard, which by the way, I'd hope we wouldn't be. That's certainly not the level I would like. I would like that to be my baseline.
There's the rub. And listen, if you think that isn't by design, you see, this is why ESL have an approach to it where whenever they're embroiled in any kind of battle, whether it's with a disgruntled partner, a disgruntled commentator, whatever it is, they are never proactive in speaking on the issues. They're barely reactive on speaking on the issues, because like Robert Olin used to say at DreamHack, he said, you get whenever there's controversies, kill it with silence. That's what he used to say all the time, and there's a wisdom in that.
Oh, there is. If you're a company, especially.
Yeah, and you guys are obviously out there beating the drum. You're the new kid on the block, I say you guys. Obviously, I'm talking about Flashpoint here, but you're not Mr. Flashpoint, even though that's the community perception. But you know, if everyone's out there beating the drum and talking about these issues, rightly, in my opinion, everything should be out there in total transparency. ESL know, well, we don't need to say anything because the more they say, eventually there will be a there'll be an incident like where the information you had wasn't quite correct. So you said something wrong, and sure, you issued an apology straight away, but people will now use that to discredit the next thing you say. And ESL have played no part in that whatsoever. They haven't replied, they haven't responded, they haven't, you know what I mean? Apart from that one time where, yeah, Flying DJ did come out and give you the receipts for the event stuff, the event dates. And that's the only time they're going to get involved. In fact, I'm amazed they've talked as much as they have because ESL historically don't do that. And in the absence of anything to pick apart in the community, they pick apart what you guys say exclusively and break it down. And, you know, the other thing that happens now, because social media has made everybody chronically mentally ill, they invent things. They don't even read a full sentence anymore. People don't read sentences. They pick out words and then they construct a narrative in their mind. And then they act outraged about the narrative they've constructed. I mean, that happens to me all the time. So no one wants to engage in good faith on the things you actually say. They want to imagine what you said and then be outraged by what they imagined. So now you imagine if you were the only guy saying anything, you cannot win the PR battle. A PR battle implies there's like two sides.
Sure.
And that's been the problem for my mind for Flashpoint. That's why they've gone from being a really exciting prospect in the eyes of the community to becoming, like I say, you know, word fatigue.
Problem is that here's the thing. Even though I certainly think there's something to what you're saying, I do also think none of that would matter if they hadn't fucked up the qualifier and if they'd have just been able to announce Astralis, Fnatic, and OG or something. You know, I think that would have been game over there. Like it wouldn't even matter. The real reality is,
but this is another thing.
Teams aren't there. They didn't give a fuck, did they?
Yeah, no, but that's the other thing, isn't it? Imagine a world, this is just my opinion, so you can tell me if I'm wrong, right? But imagine a world where, let's say it's Flashpoint that goes out and gets, you know, I won't even give you the full top 10, but I'll give you like the top 8 teams.
The majority of the best teams, exactly.
Yeah, the majority of the best teams, including Astralis. I don't think you guys are then as vocal about what's happening with ESL. In my opinion, that's the scenario.
I'm pretty sure some of the others wouldn't have said anything. Yeah,
I mean, like, I'm not talking about you again because fucking hell, you're never going to shut up about anything.
Oh,
so
this is my position.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, that's what I think, and I think even though the community are, like I say, you know, I'm making broad, you know, generalizations here. But even though I think a lot of the community think in binary and a lot of people are like all about that recreational outrage life and just jumping onto any drama as it happens, I think also as well the internet has a general kind of savvy understanding of when people are like trying to deflect or draw attention, like, oh, look over here, don't look over here, you know. It's kind of weird. It's like they're simultaneously naive, but then if the bullshit's not finely tuned enough, they'll spot it straight away. And I think there's an idea there that, you know, why a Flashpoint focusing so much on ESL's deficiencies? Are they trying to hide their own? Now, I don't think that. I mean, I've looked at the numbers. You know, it's on paper what you guys are proposing is a better financial deal, no doubt. Whether you guys deliver on that, we'll find out. But that's the reality. But what people's perception is, I think, at this point is there's got to be something wrong with Flashpoint stuff because the teams went this way, and ever since that happened, all Flashpoint have talked about is actually ESL are bad.
I don't want to hear a single talent who works for ESL, even privately, ever again tell me they paid you late. I don't want to hear a single team say that they paid late. I don't want to hear anyone in another game tell me that ESL didn't pay them on time. And so, you know, when people were making that, like, they were attempting like a glib rebuttal of the percentages, right? Yeah. Where, by the way, the reason you know that ESL's percentages don't add up is fucking Ulrich himself basically said, like, that they didn't want to discuss that aspect of the topic. Like, enough said, game over. If they had us beaten on paper, they just said it, wouldn't they? He had all the receipts for that fucking calendar, but he didn't want to talk about, like, absolute values. And, no shit, he didn't, mate. But this is the point I would say. is if people are going to act that way, then let's not ever bring it up otherwise. Because if you want to go, but Thorin, what if yours is 30%, but theirs is 20%, but they have more revenue? I've got a question for you, dickhead. When's your rent due? At the end of the month or in 3 months from now? Oh, the end of the month. You'll probably need your money at the end of the month then. Oh, you haven't got the money at the end of the month. Then you get 100% of nothing, you dickhead. That's not of any value whatsoever. Like, are people unaware of, like, I'm going to have to give people a 1 minute explanation of the scam that allowed esports to actually exist as a thing in the West. It was called the Angel Munoz. I was an investment banker approach to making money. And what you do is this: you persuade a company, we will call them the sponsor in this case, to give you $500,000. You take $500,000, and because you were an investment banker, you put it into the highest yield bank account you have access to. You then fob off all the players who go to the tournament and win that prize money, but now have to fill out complicated paperwork and then wait months and months in other countries. And then on top of that, you drag them out as long as you can, because every 30 days that money stays in your bank account is money you literally make. Think about what a high yield interest account can make off even like $1,000. Now imagine that was $500,000 or $1 million in there. That entire scam was literally basically what you could allege the CPL was. That was, as far as I can tell, its primary purpose. Its secondary purpose, almost a byproduct of the scam, was running esports tournaments, because that's how it perpetuated itself. Now, if you know that, think now in 2020 about a sum. I believe the minimum guarantee is something like 45 million euros for that ESL Pro Tour. So they combined with all the money you have to pay out, all the revenue, all the shit combined, right? Imagine you put that in an account and didn't pay someone for 3 months. You're literally just making money off money that you never should have even kept in your account. Like, why this is not a big deal just shows how fucking nickel and dime esports is. Like, people still don't get it. That the fact, like, this is one of those areas I realize why it is a waste of time trying to help morons. Like, you know, there was no fanfare whatsoever anywhere in the esports industry about me getting Dan Fiden, the fucking, isn't he like the CEO of Cloud9 or the COO or something? I got him to come on, put on paper on Twitter and on our show and promise that everyone will get paid. Everyone will get paid within 30 days. Everyone. That wasn't even written up by anyone, Richard. That wasn't a story. That wasn't a Twitter thread. No, that wasn't a Reddit thread. No one gives a fuck. No one actually cares about this industry. Like, what I realize now is they only care when we build a fucking soap opera for them of like, well, this is the bad guy in the story.
Narratives.
Your favorite player. No, that's the sad thing you realize though, is like the way people consider, people don't actually care about the industry. Like, it's just another story, isn't it?
Well, I mean, it's kind of, that's kind of that's a very big philosophical question, I guess. I mean, the reality is, I think people are here because, you know, they're drawn to what, you know, something within esports, and they get in here. But I mean, at the end of the day, what you have to understand is esports is we're competing with everything else going on simultaneously in the world. And if at any point we don't hold people's interest, people will just fuck off. Now, you know, think about it. Why would I genuinely give a shit about something like to its, you know, existential core, if I can just go and entertain myself in another way? So, you know, for example, okay, esports, right? It's cool now and it's growing now, so I'm into it now. But I'm getting a little bit older, and actually the tournaments aren't as big, and I'm getting a little bit bored now, and that number one team's been winning all the time, and I don't even really play the game anymore. But ooh, look what's going on over here. Everyone's talking about this movie or this book, or politics is the new jam, where everyone's a fucking political streamer now and stuff like that. So, you know, people, esports is vying for attention with everything else in existence. And that's its problem. I think that as we've scaled upwards and attracted more people into it, we don't have the same kind of hardcore following that understood that the fabric of esports, like what's holding it all together. This is a very finely attuned ecosystem. And we have to drive out bad faith actors. Like, you know, when I went to LANs back in the day, you know, in 2005 and stuff, the average player would be talking about, you know, the scumbags and the liars, and, you know, like, and you got to get rid of this guy and get rid of that guy, and isn't this bullshit? And everybody knew who was fucking full of it. We all knew CPL. We all knew what they were doing to people. We all knew who was owed the money. These days, I think, again, people are just kind of like, listen, I want to turn up. I want to watch the games. I don't even want to listen to the analysis desk. But if they say anything funny, send me a clip. I don't want to listen to a full podcast. I want a timestamp. I don't want to read a full article. I want a headline. And it's because everyone's time is being pulled every which way. So I don't know if it's a bad thing. And I don't know if those people don't care about the industry, but yeah, I mean, I think it's very hard to get them to care enough on certain issues. And I found that. Think how many years I've been like match fixing, kiddie casinos, fucking, improper management, bad contracts. Like, I've been railing against this shit for 15 years and I still get called a liar, a scumbag, a shill. I'm doing it for my own vested interest. I'm an attention whore. You name it, right? Like, I know that when I do eventually go back to a CS:GO event, there's a good chance I'll get like spat on, called names. Like, I don't know why that is, but it just is that way. Like, and it's when we agreed we were going to grow, we agreed we were going to let in everybody, regardless of how much they gave a shit. I'm just writing an article about this now. Like the, think about how CS:GO got big. It was skins. We introduced skins, a in-game cosmetic item that had a monetary value. We introduced loot boxes essentially, and then we introduced gambling. And because Valve give out the API, so we had betting on games. And we had those skins that you won on a game could then be put into a fucking virtual casino. And suddenly everyone wanted to play CS:GO because all these 16-year-old kids, 13-year-old kids were being told, like, hey, listen, these skins have value. You can get rich. You can do this. You can do that. and those people aren't hardcore fans. They don't even, they only watch the games if they've placed a bet. What we were able to do between 2014 and now is, I think we have converted a lot of people to stick around for the scene. But unfortunately, those people, it's not like they were brought in on a waft of, oh, I love esports, me, and they've got good moral fiber. No, they stick around because they got used to something rather than they really give a shit. So, I don't know, man. It's a tough question to ask, answer rather. I just think that the bottom line is, the time to fight the issues is probably going to be now, like when Flashpoint gets a season under their belt. Like, blow ESL out the water with the broadcast, get everybody talking positively about you again, and then pick a battle to go and fight specifically on the issues when we've kind of got like a season out the way and we've got some hardcore numbers and some hardcore data. Like right now, it looks like sour grapes, because of the timing with the team announcements. So, but anyway, I mean, I don't know if there's anything else to add on that point.
No, not really. I mean, here's the thing: as general approach for Flashpoint people, yeah, I'd agree. It's not going to be my approach because, like I said, I just comment I think about it.
Yeah, which is reasonable and fair. And and that was one thing I wanted to add, just on your point as well. Like the one thing I will definitely agree with is I'm as sick and tired of it as you, because I love all of these guys, like obviously Moses and Anders and you're people that I actually consider friends, Vince, everyone really, like, Henry, obviously I go back to when he was a kid. But yeah, when you're like talking to these guys and, it's not always just ESL, it's like, they might say, oh, this tournament, this TO's, not paid me on time. And I go, well, why didn't you just fucking light them up on Twitter? Why didn't you just torch them? You've got the following, you've got the fans, you've got the labor they need for their broadcast. You can just withhold it. And they always kind of go, nah. It's like, well, I'm proposing a solution here at least. And then the other thing I'll do is I'll go like, hey, like, could always link it to a journalist. Like, you could always tell DK or someone, right? Nah. I think what I'll do is I'll just keep getting fucked in the arse over and over again and mentioning it to you over and over again every time I see you. And I'm kind of like you, man. I'm like, why don't you just torch these motherfuckers? Like, if ESL owe you money, torch them. I know they control 80% of the calendar, but like, look at FM Porn. They owed him money from fucking New York. And he finally tweets about it, and then you get Uli on it going, "Oh, we had no idea that we owed you the money. Bloody hell, it's a big company, this ESL. These invoices just get lost. We'll resolve it straight away." The only way you will ever get somebody that is retaining money in their bank account to give you the money that they have promised you is to fucking give them the negative PR. So they are forced to settle it. Because then, giving you the money they already have to give you anyway, and it buys off the negative PR. It has a value add. Otherwise, I can just keep stringing you along, because what's the penalty? There is no penalty. In fact, actually, I make the money. I make more money by doing that. So that's what I've been telling people, but no one listens to me, you know. It's just, I don't know, not everyone has the stomach for war, I guess.
I would just say this. You know, when people all the time who are low-level journalists or just shitters on Reddit generally, you know, when they always pipe up with that classic refrain, of course, when these guys get replaced by the real journalists that come in, I'd fucking love it if some of them guys could come in. I'd love it if all these people I'm being told I'm keeping down in esports journalism actually stepped into the place. Like when I'd work a job like this, they just take up all the issues. They take all the advocacy for all the different parties in esports that are going. But you'll never get that, of course. They'll just sit back like cowards. Like the real irony is this: I'm being told don't speak out about something that could cost me personally, while the people that it will cost nothing refuse to speak out about it. And by the way, that's just esports in a nutshell from day zip to now. And it'll always be that way. It'll only be the people who actually care who will ever speak up for anything or ever be an advocate. The people who have nothing to lose won't even gamble that. They'll just sit back in their cushy little Twitter chair, as it were, with all their mates in the industry. Mates, I say people just have had like 2 shandies with them and I'll think of best friends with. Like these daft cunts, and they'll go to the next award show, the next conference, they'll be on a panel. Do you think esports is the mainstream in the 20, like, and that's all esports is to them, like some shit social club. Whereas my whole position from day one to now is the same. It's like I said in an interview that I saw Jinx did, like just a segment from. Like, if these things can't survive for what they actually are, and you have to sell them as a bunch of bullshit or lie, etc., I hope they die. I hope that esports dies. I hope Counter-Strike dies. I hope every league in Counter-Strike dies, because the whole point is, if it isn't legit...
Yeah, I was going to say, you mean the leagues, not the person.
Who the fuck wants these things to continue on as some like fucking shadow of what they should be? Just some weird thing that you've just sold to someone else and somebody it's not. It's like the whole point of what made esports cool was the idea that the actual tournaments and players we have now could get bigger, not the idea that some other, like, that's why I'd never be able to fuck with people in the industry who themselves only care about like Counter-Strike, for example. And then they're like, oh, it's brilliant to see Booga winning the Fortnite. It's nothing, that's not even anything to do with you. What are you talking about? Why is that brilliant for you? That would be like being someone who your whole life was an advocate for, like, just pick some random country, like that country getting out of economic bad conditions. And you were like, oh, brilliant, that instead everyone gave all the money to this totally different country. How would that help you and your cause? You lost, mate. Do you not realize that? You didn't win because they won. You lost.
So I'll do the ad read now. All right. I'll give I'll shout out the sponsors .com. .com/RLS if you want to go and support them. You can place some bets on esports events. We are going to talk about some events in just a moment. You can head over there and like I say, it's B18 plus, bet responsibly. They're a great sponsor to have, and we really like having them, so look after them. Right. Now, we can talk about an event. I'm going to need you to cast your mind back here, Duncan, but since, as you can remember, as far back as fucking ES Reality, I think you'll be all right. At the start of the month, there was something called the Ice Challenge. I believe you put out an edgy tweet about it. Made some immigration joke or something, because of course you did. But anyway, it was a pretty good event in terms of the teams that were there. There were some decent teams. You had Mousesport, you had Na'Vi, you had OG, you had Ents, Mad Lions. The new Godsent lineup. So it was a good event in terms of the teams that were there. There was obviously Sadakist and Henry there, and some other people. And it sounds really dismissive. I'm not. I just can't remember. But it was a fucking nightmare in terms of trying to watch those games. I mean, like because it was in London, the time zone for me was fucking, like I'm having to wake up like crazy o'clock. And no match started within like an hour of its proposed time.
They had a lot of issues as far as I can tell. I think it's because, like, I don't want to speak out my ass here, but I believe it was maybe at some sort of like an expo or something. It was one of those like almost like a throwback event in that sense. So I think that's why it had issues. I could be wrong on that.
Yeah, there was a lot of activity in the background wherever Sato and Henry were sat when they were doing the commentary. There was like a lot of activity behind them, so I think you might be right.
Because it's pretty notorious in that setting. You know, you didn't set everything up necessarily, all the electricity or the internet. So it's very easy that you can have
someone
problems.
kicks
It's
a
obviously
wire
where we
out.
came from an esports anyway, you know. So
yeah,
expected.
But anyway, I mean, so it had a lot of problems. So in terms of it being like a good event, it wasn't. But it did throw up some interesting games and some interesting results. Let's start by talking about ENCE, because there was some delicious revenge, of course, served up on the very first day. OG were playing ENCE, and as those who were following the scene know, Alexi B famously kicked from ENCE. That was the change they absolutely needed to make while they were like the second or third best team in the world. Since then, been an absolute free fall. Don't have any notable results to speak of since they brought in Sunny, formerly of Mouse Sports. And it was a double whammy because not only did OG beat ENCE in the series pretty comprehensively. The first train was an overtime win, but Overpass was horrifically one-sided towards OG. But also Sunny, who was the replacement for Alexi B, was absolutely dog shit in this series, and got like just over 20 frags on 2 maps. So they then went and played like the new Godsent lineup. I'm sure a lot of people were thinking, ENCE can beat Godsent. No worries here. If you don't know who's on the Godsent lineup, that's the one that has Crystal still playing. So it's Crystal, Maiden, Zane, Sticko, and Makalele. Now, love some of those guys on that team as people, but I think it'd be...
They are rejects from other teams in reality.
Right, there we go. There's the word. There's the word in everyone's mind. No, yeah, they are like the fucking Raggy Dolls cartoon from the fucking 80s. But anyway, Godsent absolutely battered ENCE. It was like 16-7 on Nuke, 16-4 on Inferno. It was just horrific. And ENCE crash out of the tournament in joint last place. So, first of all, you can talk about those results if you want, but second, and perhaps more importantly, ENCE are a fucking omni-shambles at the moment and haven't really shown any signs of improvement. They put some interview out saying, before DreamHack Anaheim, we're going to get our shit together. That starts tomorrow, I think. We're going to get our shit together and things are going to be different. I feel like they've been saying that for every tournament anyway, and nothing ever changes. I just can't believe what's happened to ENCE. The Alexi B move will go down as one of the worst of all time, by the way.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the stupidest thing about it was, even if somehow he hadn't have panned out and he'd been shitting OG and, maybe his aspect had failed, just with the way people's brains process moves, people would have said it was the worst move ever anyway, the same way as people spent the last 2 years laughing at Kirby for leaving Astralis. Even though I always said, the part that never made sense about that to me is like, A, he almost certainly wouldn't have had that success himself, and B, there would have been no Astralis to have the success. So, like, what do people actually want him to go back in time and redo there? Like, that doesn't, like, that's just, basically, if you're a Kirby, it's just unfortunate. That's it. Like, you didn't actually make a bad decision or a good decision. Like, it's irrelevant. Like, we have no idea what would happen if you'd been in that team. Maybe you'd have completely shit the bed, been really terrible, and that'd be the end of your career completely. Could even happen. Yeah. So I would say ENCE already was in a really bad spot. They've obviously been absolutely fucking dire the last 6 months. So ever since the major, basically, they have been irrelevant completely. But then add in on that as well. The biggest problem is that Alexi B has been so legit elsewhere. And then I even was able to come, it was 2 days ago now, and say that from here in the comms, they are absolutely full of shit. He really is a legit, really good in-game leader who knows what he's doing, can call exactly the kinds of halves, by the way, that he was having at Blast Premier, that were like fucking old school ENCE, where they were like coming back against big teams, all on the T side, all with great calls, all with like mad tenacity when it's late in a game and you should roll over if you're the underdogs or the more inexperienced players. So like ENCE as an actual team right now, we're at the point where you almost have to remember who they were before they had that run at the beginning of last year, where they were like, I think before Katowice last year, they were ranked 13th in the world. They're going back there, boys, and that's where they're going to stay. There is no reason whatsoever.
I honestly cannot believe they're as high as 11th right now, frankly.
I would imagine some of that's layover from the fact that, like, unfortunately, one of the big flaws I've noticed with a lot of the ranking systems in the world is that just getting invited to events, you get placings even for you get points for last place and shit. So it's really hard to put it this way, to knock someone out of the top 20 or 30 now is fucking hard with the current ranking systems. It's one of the reasons why for Flashpoint, we will probably try and get someone independent to make a ranking so that we can't have that be a factor. Because we actually want the teams that really aren't top 20 to have to pay the fine. So what I would say is, if you look going forwards, I can't think of a single reason why this Ents team will be a top 10 team again with this lineup. I don't think it'll ever happen.
I mean, I honestly think they're going to struggle to stay top 15 even, because right now, you look at the teams that are kind of on the come up. Think about what Complexity just did at their last LAN.
Oh, there's some really banging teams in that 10 to 20.
They're 23rd.
Through. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and they lost to that Godsent team at LAN, and it wasn't even close. Godsent are 19th. OG is 17th. They're on the come up. You've got Mad Lions 12th. These are 4 teams that are going to leapfrog above them, and I would back to beat them in any best of 3 series, pretty much 8 times out of 10. So I think Ents have real problems. I don't know what they've done differently or what they think they're going to do. The balance is just off. And I said this, and this is no disrespect to Arlu. Arlu had a really good tournament, actually, at this ICE challenge. He played really well, but playing well and having good tactics and good strats and having a system and being a leader, it's just not the same. And I always thought Arlu was kind of a quiet guy. The way he handles himself on his Twitter is not an exaggeration who he is as a person to be funny. It's just who he is. He's a very stoic dude. It's one of the things to like about him, He's very forthright. He's very direct. He's very blunt, not verbose at all. He just tells it like it is and tells it very shortly. So that's great. But I don't know how that translates to being sort of a great leader of men or a great in-game leader and having incredible tactics. And I watch Ents play, and it's just a uncoordinated shit show now. And at first people were saying, oh, well, they're dropping down because of the org meta has been changed. The Krieg is busted as fuck. If you win CT rounds and can get Kriegs in your hand as a CT, you can just use all the old Alexi B strats.
Be better than the org.
Yeah, exactly. Well, not even arguably, it just is. So, it's but they're not even winning the rounds. They can't string rounds together anymore. Their tactics are terrible. And I think somebody said as well, I don't know if this was a genuine tweet, but somebody said, we're still using 70% of Alexi B.
It was actually Alexi B himself. He said,
they're still using 70% of my strats.
When he was at Blast, I basically put it to him when he was on the desk after he won the first series against EG. I'd heard from people inside Ents that you weren't doing that much tactically and that it was overblown, that you were the best IGL and that, Alu did some of the key rounds. And he said, not only is that completely false, but that he'd even heard from people within the team that they still use to this day when they come out of the spawn, 70% of the initial tactics are just shit he made with them months ago.
Yeah.
That is outrageous. It sounds true.
No, but I mean, so think about that then. So it's not even... Alexi B has that intangible quality, right? Because it's not even just the strats that they're using. Because if you are using 70% of the strats and they look this bad, well, now we've got an execution and a timing problem. If the playbook's good, what's going wrong? And obviously that means you're misfiring. People aren't doing what they need to do. I mean, every time I watch Ents now, it's I know, man, I enjoyed watching them so much back when they were blowing up. And
they have none of the character they used to have as a team.
Nah, yeah, it's just not even there. And they've got one of the best young players in world fucking Counter-Strike. Spare a thought for Sergey, who's still only 17. And what must be going through his head as a young dude where everyone was talking about him as one of the best players in the world, rookie of the year, all these accolades. He's got the numbers to back it up. And now he's playing in a dysfunctional team. You got to, he's the one who has to parachute the fuck out. If I'm him, I'm talking to an agent. If I'm him, I'm looking at my options, maybe getting on one of these international lineups. Hell, maybe you could follow Alexi B over to OG and replace Issa. No disrespect to Issa, but it's a fucking hell of an upgrade to have, isn't it? He needs to look at his options now because he's not even playing as well as he used to. There's clearly a confidence issue there, and I don't know, man. It's just sad. ENCE was a great breakout story when they were on the come up. They did incredible things, but now they're just an embarrassment, frankly.
I'd even go as well and add this detail in. Like, I don't know how much I can say about this because this hasn't been said publicly, but it was basically intimated to me that another thing Alexi B did within ENCE was like, I won't straight up say micromanage because people will go too far with that and think that the players
they'll blow that out.
But I'll just say that, like, as far as I know, he also was involved with managing like specific players in the team who I won't reference, in terms of how they played and what they maybe did, like when they rotated in times on the map. And again, I would just say that's one of the most damning things against the notion that LXCB wasn't the good IGL, is that if everyone else in the team just played the same, but they just didn't win the same way IGL-wise, right now we can just blame Alu. As you're alluding to here, mate, even the players in the team are kind of whack now. Like, they don't get many big performances out of almost anyone in that team. Even Sergey has actually dropped off quite a lot statistically from where he was 6 months ago, a year ago, where he was right on the brink of being like a superstar, basically.
Yeah. The other team I think we should talk about here, and obviously a team that is going to be over at Flashpoint, we think. I think it was announced, right? Mad Lions. And they've been sort of a revelation the last few months, because I think back when they were tricked, I don't think anybody was looking at the roster and thinking this is going to do anything, and lol, Godhunden, etc. But this is kind of this was where I'm like, okay, I 100% believe they're a legit team now, and are going to keep climbing and will be in the top 10, I think, very soon. Because forget about Hunden for a second. We all know he's mechanically a very poor player, but the team he's been able to assemble here, in particular Bubsky and Acor, is really, really good. And here at the Ice Challenge, sure, they lost to Mousesports on the opening day. I think most people would expect that, but it was close. There was an overtime game in there.
Number one team in the world, according to ESL's ranking.
Yeah, exactly right. Then they were able to beat Heroic, and then they beat OG, and it was a pretty, it was 16-12s on both maps. So, that's kind of close. That's like, 1 or 2 rounds kind of swinging your way. But then they got a rematch with Mousesports in the semis, and they took the first map. They took Vertigo off Mousesports. I would say Vertigo right now, a good map for Mousesports. Definitely one they like to play. So they were able to do that. It was Mad Lions' pick. So they're not afraid of that stuff. Dust 2, Mousesports all day. But then Nuke was super close. There was a couple of rounds where things just went really awry. But, I mean, this was like a legit showing. You've had some close maps, took a map off, Mousesports, number 2 team in the world currently on form. You've beat some other good opponents in there. This was like an impressive run. I mean, there's a world where conceivably, if things had gone a little bit different, maybe they do steal a series off Mousesports and go to the final against Na'Vi. So I'm super impressed. I mean, I still think the future home for the Danish talent that's like really leaping out is probably to go over to North. We're going to talk about North in just a bit, a little bit later on. But I think for now, Mad Lions is going to be like a legit team. Like, they've really found some good players here. I mean, there's that Shush as well. Like, I've got to give him props. He had a couple of great series here as well. So, I mean, they're just a legit Danish team, proven once again. Denmark has the embarrassment of riches when it comes to talent in depth.
Yeah, the cool thing to me is the fact that basically Hunden somehow held on and kept this lineup till they became Mad Lions, because that now makes it so that in theory they might not just get all their pockets picked by all the bigger orgs, at least in the past, crucially bigger orgs. Whereas now, for people who don't know, like the people behind Splice and Mad Lions, Overactive Media, like they have pretty deep pockets themselves and can get plenty of fucking VC. So in theory, what you're getting to see now is what you never did get to see back in the day in Counter-Strike, which is you always got the top talents picked away constantly. In fact, the real joke was, if you remember, there was that team that was the one that had Epsilon, which was like Disco Doppler and Draken and Rez. And the joke was you only found out who fucking Rez was because the others two got taken away. And then eventually he was like the joke is he would have been a background player otherwise. So you just saw those teams picked apart one by one, and we never really got to know what would have happened if you could have taken that team in Salfino and SK Gaming and given them the platform to go to the big events. So I would say, first of all, it's interesting that he's got this little window where he can actually show what he's doing with these players and they don't just immediately go to MSL. ESL or Snappy, and then those players get the credit for them blossoming into superstars. But I'd also add in as well, whereas usually when an underdog team comes up and has these big results, people think, the analysts are just hating on them, saying that, OG, Furia, they're just hating by saying they're going to drop off. What that normally means is the eye test doesn't work. The eye test for this team, they pass it like a motherfucker. They look really legit as a squad. Like, tactically, they look in place. Like you're saying, even the ones that were the least well-known, like the Shush guy, he has maps where he's looking banging as an entry player. Like, he seems to know exactly what the fuck he's doing. So the idea that they didn't just find, like, one talent, they found seemingly a whole plethora of talent. Some of them, in the case of the Bobskis and the Acors of the world, that we already had seen a little bit. It's just that they hadn't somehow flourished. So it's another example of where you can't put it all on the IGL, but I will say, like, how many times is Hunden going to get lucky if you don't believe he's the one crafting these players and figuring out their role and how to make them? Like, the guy's just amazing at what he does. Like, he has his own very specific lane, but he is the master of it in that sense. Like, I don't know anyone in World Counter-Strike who's been as this consistent at finding talent like this.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely right up there, right? I mean, what you have to remember as well as though with with Hunden, back in Counter-Strike Source, he was a guy like he played for like DS Rack. I think he played over at I think he was in one of the really good Danish Reason gaming lineups as well at some point. I could be wrong about that. That's a fucking long time ago. That's like 2010. But he was obviously a different type of player right there. But he was another guy that always seemed to have a handle on who was good in the Danish scene, like who was coming up. Like whenever I used to hang out with him and talk with him and have a beer with him at like the Danish lands, which I used to go to all of the lands, all the small community lands, all the big ones, like the Copenhagen Games when that started, all the DS racks, everything. He would go, that kid's gonna be wicked in 2 years. And you're like, okay, like 2 years, he's going to be good, and then boom, it would happen. I mean, like he would just know instinctively which players sort of had all the attributes. He also was very good at like sort of detecting when someone was being a little bit overhyped. Like,
all right,
yeah, like seriously, like so. I remember, there was a couple of Danish players that were on like the precipice of like, getting a lot of props in the scene and maybe getting called up to play on like one of the fetish lineups and stuff like that. And Hunden was like, no, that guy's gonna like drop off. That guy's gonna drop off. And you'd be like, what are you talking about? He's fucking dropping 30s every game. Like, why would he just drop off? And happened again. There was a few players like that. He was a big fan of, like, for example, if people remember Once, I don't think people probably do, but there was this like kind of prodigy-esque player that came from kind of nowhere. Everyone thought he was a cheater and an onliner, as we do in Counter-Strike. Player called Once. And basically Hunden Fetish were his two biggest advocates in the Danish scene. And obviously that carries a lot of clout. But everyone was calling him an onliner, a fucking cheat. His movement was like sick. And, every time I think
to a Ziwu type scenario, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, but it was actually a little bit tougher than that for him coming through, because some of the people who called him out were old school players. Like, right. I want to say, I think like the Dutch Fnatic guys who were like legends. They were the first dynastic Counter-Strike Source team, going back to when they were called Northern Lights. I think they even said this Once kid's bullshit. And Hunden and Fetish were like, big advocates for him in the scene coming up. And Fetish eventually brought him in to the Reason Gaming side, which went on to be the #1 team in the world. So, if I remember rightly, they might have been #2, but they were definitely there or thereabouts and won a lot of tournaments. So I mean, Hunden's he was doing that in Source. So it's not it doesn't surprise me that he's able to like root out people, because he's never had an ego either. It's kind of like who he plays with. Like, he doesn't give a fuck if you've got star power or any. He doesn't care about that. He doesn't care about your rep. It's just, what do you do on the server, and he'll play with anybody. And obviously later in his career, he's had to play with anybody because his skills have dropped off. But
even that part, though, mate, that's another thing, Peter. Like, one of my triggers is when a stupid idiot who sits there and has never accomplished anything in their own life looks at someone incredibly accomplished and dedicated and goes, "Well, you are paid to do it, so after all." It's like, You know, people would think like, well, yeah, Richard, you know, you have to play with all these scrubs. No, that's the thing. This guy could have quit 10 years ago. It wouldn't have been a big, like, the fact that he keeps grinding is fucking mad inspirational. Whether he's good enough to make or not's irrelevant, but like the fact that he puts in the hours. Because there's the other thing. It's not like he's just finding these players and then fucking around a bit in the server and they go, like, it looks like he puts in the kind of work I'd expect from someone in the top 5 team in the world to get these players up to speed, to have the playbook, to study the opponents. Like, anyone who's a master of their craft, like, you just got to tip your hat, like, mad respect.
Sure, yeah, but I think it's quite telling as well, right? In a scene that is a bit not as bad as the French scene, but is notorious for like gossip and rivalries and bickering and like people airing their dirty laundry. I can't think of anyone who's ever had anything bad to say about Hunden as like an in-game leader or a person. It always just comes down to his skills on the server being kind of like the meme, the joke. You know, even I've poked fun at it, but everyone in the Danish scene really likes him. And I think it's like another reason why he gets access to, you know, a lot of potential players that are out there. Like everybody in the Danish scene knows everybody else. And Hunden, incredibly, despite the memes, he still has a lot of clout, you know? So yeah, he's a really cool dude. I'd love to. Have you ever done an interview with him?
I did like a brief one. It was like a talk to Thorin one. Where that was mainly where all I kind of did was just put to him all the different players over the years that are like big names now that he's played with. Because I thought like he'll have an interesting insight on this guy when he first met him. So it was almost like that. Like I just used him in that regard because I knew he had like I basically just looked it up one day and saw how many players had actually been in his teams. It was mental, mate. Like if you did like the top 50 Danish CS:GO names, he probably had 40 of them in his teams. Like there's very few skipped him basically.
Yeah. Well, no, you should. He's tantamount now for a Reflections. I think he would. I think that would be really good. And I could like feed you some of the interesting little anecdotes from the Source days, and you can sort of put them to him. But I think a Reflections with Hunden would be sick. Like just putting that out there. Not trying to tell you how to do your job.
It's all right.
Yeah, you're thinking, no, but my boy Existence has just announced his retirement. So.
Yeah, I don't think he's ever going to do an interview in English, so I wouldn't worry about that.
Yeah, it's mental because he speaks good English. It's so
ridiculous, isn't it? Yeah.
You know, I've never seen anybody speak English as fluently as he does and yet mind fucked himself that his English is bad. I've never. He is unique.
Oh no, mate! This guy is so ridiculous. He would actually say in perfect English, like I can't really speak English, and then keep turning to Semler to translate, as I kept saying. But I've already had this conversation with you in English when Semler wasn't here, and he'd go like, "Fuck off!" Like, give me a break.
Yeah, we don't need to translate. Yeah, you
exactly,
talk perfect English. Yeah, no, mental. But anyway, so we'll wrap up the Ice Challenge talk. We're just talking about Mousesports. We'll do Mousesports and Na'Vi because we didn't talk about Na'Vi the other day. Mousesports, we'll do Na'Vi first. Na'Vi, we're kind of powering through. This was the first outing for the new lineup with Perfecto, which was a surprise pickup for a lot of people. I'll tell you, this Na'Vi team here, it looked to have a lot more balance and a lot more shape. And considering they didn't have a lot of time, and clearly Perfecto wasn't the first choice or the player that they'd anticipated to have, and I'm sure they would have liked a bigger name. What was interesting here was immediately you could see the gap that Guardian was sort of creating on the scoreboard and the lack of impact he was having, and Simple moving back to Orpin, Perfecto coming in and rifling. It just gave Na'Vi a kind of balance and a fluidity that they were lacking. But more importantly, it made up the firepower differential. And I think that's what we said before Guardian got kicked, right? We said all Na'Vi need is a fucking mediocre rifler, because Guardian's dropping 10s and 15s. A mediocre rifle is going to give you a 20, 25, in across 2 maps minimum. So it worked. They were really good. They had like some good series here. I was very impressed with Perfecto because my expectations were super low. I thought he was going to maybe be a bit of a wash, a bit of a bust, but he had some series where he was very, very good indeed. And of course, Simple back to God mode. Electronic is now legit a consistent player that is often challenging Simple for the top of the scoreboard now. Boomich seemed to be a lot happier. There was just this weird like malaise over Na'Vi when Guardian was there, because I think everyone likes Guardian and looks up to Guardian, and it's just awful to see a player that you love and revere kind of fail consistently, and you're like, come on, we'll get him next time, and then next time he's even worse, and you go, It's definitely next time. You haven't hit bottom yet. Don't worry, it's fine. Like, we're gonna bounce back, boom, and then he gets worse again. I think it did cast a pretty long shadow over this Na'Vi team. Now they weren't able to do a number on Mouse Sports in the final, which was a best of 5. But overall, for a first outing, I think Na'Vi fans have got a lot to be cheery about.
Yeah, I actually think overall as a team, as you say, I don't have to give many props to Perfecto. Like, he has certain moments and situations he can be good in. He doesn't look like a top player, and I can totally see why he wasn't on anyone's short list. It's just that the CIS region's a nightmare at the moment to sign any players from. Hence why there was even that bizarre news where Na'Vi's trying to put together some sort of fucking summit to like be like, come on, lads, let us have some of the players. Like,
I know, like, we've got the money.
So I would just say, like basically, I think we nailed this one. Like you said, all he had to do was, it wasn't even that Guardian was bad, is that he was bad and he was taking the AWP all the time. Because I actually had a discussion about this with Blade, because he said it in an interview with HLTV.org, that he actually thinks that Simple, as good as he is with an AWP, could be basically the most unstoppable player ever if he was a hybrid player. And the concept would be he'd only AWP certain times, the rest of the time he'd have a rifle. Because listen, like, we all understand, with 99% of players that have ever played, if they were equally as good with a rifle and an AWP, rifle usually is more useful. You can do better things in a clutch with it. You can obviously rotate positions and not get caught out as much. Like, you're not stationary. The problem is Simple's style of AWPing is so like absurdly unique to him that he almost use it. Like, he's the first person I ever saw who actually used the AWP in the way that those stupid Valve devs described it when they nerfed it, where they said, we don't want it to become like a mobile shotgun, as though anyone in fucking Counter-Strike was using it like that. But Simple does. Like, he really can just sort of like sneak up on you, and he's that quick to fire and has that insane aim. He can just hit any flick shot from any angle and any distance. So as a result, the problem is, in the short term, like, I sort of know what Blade means by that. It's just that I feel like the problem is, you'd have to have a good AWPer and Na'Vi anyway to give someone else the weapon, and you'd have to recondition the whole team as to how to play around this different version of Simple. Whereas at the moment, when you've got Electronic in prime form, you've got this really good general level of skill across the team. Like, when we get to the last Premier, Boomich was having series where he was going fucking ham. So if we've got
he's growing into the role, definitely.
If it ain't just Simple Electronic anymore, and you can really make Simple go back to Simple of 2018 form, which shouldn't be possible for anyone, by the way. The idea you can just flip back into God mode, but he's done it. Why not just win now? Why wait and try and why try and play ideal Counter-Strike when actually what you have right now, as we saw from these two tournaments, it might be enough now to win. You might be in position now to be top 2 or 3 again.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I don't know how much you saw of the Perfecto guy, but like, again, just generally impressed. He didn't seem overawed with kind of playing alongside these, legends in the CIS region in the form of kind of Simple, Electronic, obviously Flamey as well, and just playing on the big stage. He was doing a job and doing it very competently. Had some like nice clutch rounds. So for me, like overall, a very impressive pickup when you would probably assume they got him on a budget, given how things work in the CIS region. So yeah, I mean, did you have any thoughts about him specifically? Did you pay any attention to him? Yeah, I don't even know if you were able to see these games.
I saw some of these matches, mainly the semi-final and the final, and then I obviously saw when he was at the Blast Premier. I would just say for him, like, the big problem with recruiting a player from a team like the one he was on, which realistically, like, I don't even know if you can say that team is tier 3. They're only tier 3 by the logic that they can go through the CIS minor and maybe go to a major. Aside from that team was not relevant at all on any level in World Counter-Strike, as far as I can tell, beyond allegations of potential match fixing. That's all I've heard about that team. So when you get a player from that level, it's not even about skills. Like, his skills looked all right. It's that they're just not going to have any comprehension of like the paradigm of the global meta of Counter-Strike at the top level. It's the same thing I noticed when all the Tai Lu guys came over. Every time they'd pick up a new player, that player would take like 6 months of going to the Katowices of the world in the majors before they even understood why are the other players positioning themselves that way? Why did they play a retake this way? Why don't they just take an aim duel against me that every guy in matchmaking takes against me? And until you get like how different the game can be experientially like that, it's fucking rough to get thrown in at the deep end like he was here. So I would agree with you. Generally, I was actually reasonably impressed that he wasn't worse. Like, I thought he'd have maps where he was absolutely terrible. But I could definitely see, like, that he's got a long way to go in terms of like he has to level up his like knowledge of how to play the game, because skill set wise, it's like any sport. There's a lot of people could do the basic mechanics of the sport, but knowing how to play around your teammates and at the top levels is like probably like half the fucking game.
Yeah, it is for sure. And then obviously Mouse Sports, this is why they're in a very strong second place. You know, if you look at the point difference, it's like, I don't know, 30 points, 25 points, something like that difference between them and Astralis. If I remember rightly, I can't remember when it was, but there was a period where Mouse Sports were on the climb again. And I think they got to number 2 in the world, and then didn't they skip an event and plummeted down the rankings again?
They got to number 2 when they had the old Christian Sonny lineup. It was actually after they beat Na'Vi, funnily enough, to win that like Star Series season.
Yeah, it was when they had that rivalry with FaZe as well. They were like, they were like the FaZe killers. Yeah,
the one where famously Zeus got his 5th and 6th kill with the CZ in a grand final on home soil, where everyone alleged they used to cheat anyway. And then Henry G said the infamous line, "Zeus finally does something."
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
Henry G backed out of it and was like, "I apologize to Zeus and his family and the people of Ukraine." Even though it was one of the most righteous calls of all time.
It was great, but immediately, because everyone who is in an online community or a fandom of sorts is just insane.
The idea you had to walk that back, for God's
sake.
No,
but yeah, but death
4
threats.
kills.
Yeah, come to Russia, you know, it was fucking mental. But yeah, I loved it. Like, anyway, they won this event and won it pretty handsomely. They beat Na'Vi 3-1 in the final. Great dust too from that series. If anyone wants to, you know, watch a good game of Counter-Strike just as a demo or a VOD, go check that out. That was really, really good. The Inferno, super comfortable for Mouse Sports. They gave up Train. You'd probably expect that with Na'Vi, even though it was Mouse Sports' pick. I kind of felt that was a coin flip. But then a really, really solid nuke from Mouse Sports. So they show now exactly why they're doing so well. They've got this incredible repertoire of maps. They're not afraid to throw in curveball picks. Like, Mouse Sports probably, you know, with the exception of Astralis, they're the one team, I think, like, if maps were picked at random in a series, I would
have the best chance to win, for sure.
Yeah, I'd back them to win every series, because I think they're the one that has the map pool where they're always competitive on every game, and they really showed it here. I thought, I just thought, like, it just shows what an incredible transformation. I won't wax lyrical about Karrigan. We've done that enough. But, you know, Rops was so good here. I mean, to put it in context, right? Simple, 83 kills, Electronic 90 kills, and Rops had 83 kills. So that's the kind of company he was keeping in this series. And Frozen just behind with 82. He's like, come on, leaps and bounds. I don't know who scouted this kid back when he was doing FPL, when he was like 16 or whatever. I don't know who earmarked him to be a good talent, but man, the improvement he's made is just fucking phenomenal. So it was just a great. They're just a great team to watch. Always competitive, great individual performances right now. I guess the question is, I mean, do you think there is any chance of Mouse Sports ever being number 1?
I don't think it's impossible, not least because when they did play Astralis, they even beat them. So I think that angle's even fun. The idea that maybe Karrigan, I mean, I did a video on it as this insane record against his old team. So if it is specifically Astralis is number 1, that's an interesting one. I feel like he's one of the few IGLs that doesn't have like the same fear of them. I mean, you shouldn't really, in theory, anyway, because if you're an in-game leader, you're trying to problem solve and stuff. But let's be real. The aura of the fact that Astralis does get to a lot of people, especially the younger people who haven't been around the scene as long. They haven't seen all the great teams come and go. So I think they've got chances. The biggest problem I see is, like, they still have some young players, so you could get lucky and maybe one of them improves a little bit. But it does feel almost like they get almost everything out of all their players. So... yeah. And I think it would probably take Astralis being worse, which isn't inconceivable after the Brass Premiership, to be fair. But I don't like. I would have to say the problem is with the way the scene is right now. Like Na'Vi's in theory getting better. There's some other teams out there that are maybe going to make roster moves. I feel like it might be something like what you alluded to before with that old Mouse Sports team, like punched above their weight, got to number 2. It was like, what a great accomplishment. You're winning tournaments, but are you ever really going to be the best? Probably not. Feels tough to call that. I agree. They're amazing to watch, though. Definitely one of the most exciting teams to watch.
They've got a really good bracket at Katowice. This is why I think. So when I was putting my fantasy team together, I've gone with 2 Mouse Sports players. I think I took Rops and Chris J. And they start against Vici, who were like weren't they the stand-ins for Ty Lue because of fucking coronavirus or something.
True.
So they've got Vici. You're gonna back them to beat Vici. I think they played him not that long ago in was it IEM Shanghai. But anyway, and then on the other side of the bracket, it's G2 and 100 Thieves. Well, I'm gonna back Mouse Sports to beat either of them, and that's gonna put them in the final. Now in the final. Right, you've got Mad Lions taking on Evil Geniuses. I hope fucking Stan's been doing his homework because they could get a surprise tune in. That has massive upset potential. Liquid are taking on that ridiculous Virtus Pro side, so you're gonna back Liquid to go through. But then it could set up that tantalizing Liquid EG sort of semi there, and then whoever goes through from there, you know what? I think they're gonna get that classic NA fucking chest puffed out. And I think Karrigan will have sat and watched that demo and he'll anti-strap them to death. So I think they're going to have a good deep run here. It's just really, for me, about what's Astralis going to do. Now, what's interesting about Astralis' side of the bracket, they're going to have to... It's a fucking war zone for them. Because they're going to... Vitality are going to beat NiP. Astralis will end up playing Vitality when they beat Cloud9. Then you've got, like, Na'Vi FaZe. Mad coin toss if FaZe carry the Blast form through. So, and then Fnatic, Renegades. We don't even know how good Fnatic are going to be. I think they'll beat Renegades. So then Astralis are going to have to beat Na'Vi, FaZe, or Fnatic. And if Astralis play like they did at the Blast, that could be interesting. So everything's lined up for Mouse Sports to get the #1 spot off the back of Katowice, because all they need to do is finish ahead of Astralis to do it, essentially.
The cool thing is that it's just even possible. Like, I already think like what Karrigan's just done with this Mouse Sports alone is like worthy of a fucking real documentary. It's like unbelievable when you consider the lineup he got a while back. So if he could actually get them even for a month to the literal world #1 ranking in a real ranking, obviously like HLTVs. That would be an insane accomplishment. And if you do it in the time period during which Astralis was the #1 team and would win everything with the greatest team ever, what can you even say? The guy already, like, I already think at this point in time, if you ever make him one of those lists, like greatest players to never win a minute, he should be top of the list, mate. Like literally, you can even make a case if we're talking IGLs as well. He can even say to people who are like Simple and Nico, like, you know what, mate, step aside a second. I've actually been doing this for like 10 years and I'm one of my major. Like, you've been doing it a couple of years. You're straight fire now, but yours will come. Like, that's the thing. This guy is like a first ballot Hall of Fame. That's what I always say. He's just unreal.
Yeah, no doubt. And sorry, I did get it wrong. It's Ty Lue that are coming in for Vici, not the other way around. I don't think it changes the bracket in any meaningful way. So there we have it. So that was all of the stuff about the Ice Challenge. There's this will make you laugh. Just as an aside, because you were talking about Zeus and that famous Henry G call. So I was looking on over at the Score Esports.
I saw this headline, because the headline alone, here's the thing, right? Go on, say it just for the sake of people.
Yeah. So they made a video. And like, listen, I'll also just add, like, I think the Score Esports, while I don't agree when they do their little opinion piece stuff, they do make some really good video content. I'm a little bit envious of some of it. I wish I had the time and the resources myself to make some of the content they do. But yeah, they put a video out. Counter-Strike's most brain-dead mastermind, the story of Zeus. And that's just fucking brilliant, because even though it is obviously alluding to the fact, how brain-dead can he be? How brain-dead can he actually be if he's winning this stuff?
The problem with that is, though,
he like, sort of is, isn't he?
I'll let the joke sit for a minute, because as a joke, it's funny. It's not even that off point. I will just say this. They can absolutely suck a dick, because there's no universe in which they would ever make a video like the time that Tarek, the most brain-dead IGL, won a major. Even though, by the way, that'd be totally...
I don't know. I think they actually did do a funny one for Tarek, you know.
What did it say?
With a mad title in it. Let me find it for you. Sorry, keep going.
Something about him being a peanut brain, maybe.
Yeah, it might even be that. Yeah, like peanut brain.
The problem is, that's a meme, though. There's no meme of
There you go. Yeah, it was shirtless streamer, college dropout, major winner. So they even called him a college
That's not the
dropout.
same, though. My point is this.
Yeah, maybe.
Who accepts some safe target like a fucking Chinese player, Russian player? Who would you ever call brain dead who's a legend like that? Zeus was in 10 major finals.
Oh yeah, listen, and I know we bang on him on the like his record speaks for itself.
No, but I'm just saying, I do not believe there's anyone from their region that would ever call brain dead like that. So to me, it's not fair to do, you know. Like, what you're doing there is you rely on the fact Zeus doesn't speak English, is probably never going to say anything about you. You're just relying on that. And the fact that everyone will go, some like fucking, what was that shit comedian? Like, oh, in Russia, brain dead IGL is winning. Like, it's almost that level of dog shit humor. And also, I'll just say, fuck the score generally, because one of the things that they have done that is totally unacceptable.
Oh, no, I know what you're going to say. Go on.
If they just chilled and just made videos like this, just general, like basically, by the way, they didn't invent it. That site called SB Nation does it for real sports. They have a guy who sits around in an office and he thinks up an idea, fun ideas, by the way, like they'll go, why don't we take the last kick that Peyton Manning's team had as the Colts and rewind that and see what happened? And it's not a bad concept. The idea is if you're a casual fan who wasn't following then, you get the basic storyline. That's cool. But what they do at the Score Esports that has always pissed me off is they pretend they're esports insiders. They're not in any context whatsoever. Like, they don't know.
No, yeah, I
anyone.
suppose.
So they'll do videos that are trying to make like, we're going to tell you what actually is going on. You don't know what's going on. You're literally picking up like Reddit rumors and shit. Or you're pronouncing on like gaming culture when you don't know what that symbol means. You don't know any of this shit.
I've joked about it with Colin, right? Because they have like 1 million subscribers on YouTube. And I every time they do some like reportage, it's always, and Richard Lewis, and I'm like, listen, guys, why don't you let me? Like,
they're also parasites. They're like certain companies out there that gamble into kids, and literally all they do is just steal everyone else's content and put it on their Twitter. Sound.
I mean, you know, that might be, they do make some good original content. I'll say that. I won't go all the way in, but I've jokingly said to them like just come and get me, and I'll do the videos for you. Like if I've got a report.
Yeah, but that's the joke, Richard. They wouldn't, because you'd actually have to take a real salary. You're not eating fucking ramen noodles and sleeping inside one guy's old.
Actually, I love ramen
in fucking
still.
San Francisco, like they're fucking at edit rates, and then getting up every day and going, 10 more videos to do today. Right? Why Faker is the best? Like, give me a break.
But anyway, so I did think that was funny.
I'll do my own, Richard. You know what? If I get some time, I'll make a fake fucking green screen. I'll do like the Ball Esports, and it'll be like, man, what's going on there? A lot of people back in 2015 thought Flush cheated. Did he? No. It's like,
I mean, like I'll also add. Because I don't know if you remember this. It was the Score that did this to us, wasn't it? When we were doing that fucking DreamHack and we were like fucking around when we were doing the ad plug.
Oh yeah, they were. Oh no, that's also another thing, Richard. The same
and they
people who want to be able to banter and call a 10-time major finalist and like I think 5-time major winner brain dead, also want to simultaneously get butthurt when someone makes fun of them.
Yeah, because I can't remember what we said now, because it was 2015,
we made a
wasn't
joke about Slasher and the fucking Score app, and then we were also joking about like the movie or whatever. It was
that was it, yeah, because we had to plug Jurassic Park, right?
Jurassic World was the one at the time.
Jurassic World, sorry. We had to plug Jurassic World. And we were just having some fun with it, like just making
the most light-hearted jokes of all time as well.
Yeah.
Nothing serious.
And then like we came back and you said something like, and obviously as well, Richard, talking about fossilized dinosaurs, Slash has done this great article over at the Score, right? Which I think is fucking funny because he's been in esports a long time.
And if you know anything about the Counter-Strike community, that is our vibe. So the idea you'd get upset about that shows you aren't in our community.
Yeah, right. So, but I think what had happened was it was at the time when Rod was entrenched in some mad beef with you and me simultaneously. So for whatever reason, I don't know the mechanics of how it happened. I don't know if Rod said something or if they just did it kind of apropos of nothing. But the Score, we got told, like in our ear in production, don't make any more jokes about the Score, please. Just read what's on the card for the Score. We're liking what you're doing for Jurassic World, but please don't make any more jokes at the expense of the Score. And I was like, fucking grow up, lads. Like, for fuck's sake, you want a memorable fucking ad read, don't you? You don't want me to just be reading off a card and a fucking.
Would that be the voice. Score, the most brain dead, literal vegetative state on life support content creation site of all time?
Yeah, it must be.
Give me a break. Tell you what, you guys are okay. You're just okay. That's the thing with you. You're just okay, aren't you?
I like it.
Fuck you.
Anyway, fuck off the ads again. Fuck off. Like that fucking,
Exactly.
yeah, like that guy in the cinema. Anyway, so let's do some roster news, and then we'll get on to start heading towards viewer questions. So I alluded to it earlier. We'll throw a little bit in there. Existence did famously say he was never going to retire till he got a major, and as he kind of yeah, and as
this brain dead Belgian liar's done it again. Let's just disrespect everyone from our seniors.
I know, fucking dude. Like, mate, he's in full fucking bar brawl mode still, like just throwing punches at everyone.
I know. It's like that's the thing with me as well. It's like
I know you fucking wild.
The one element I will say that is unreal is the problem is it is like a bar brawl. It's like if I'm in the middle of scrapping with someone who's fucking with me, I think they're trying to go for my life. Don't just like waltz up and try and have a word, because I'm just going to turn and fucking just be going on you. Yeah, anyone can get it. Like that's just the way I've always been. So there are people where they'll just pop up like, I don't know if that's it. So get the fuck out of this industry.
I'm the same. So I can't criticize you for that because I know what I do it. I do it on Twitter all the time, like perfectly. You know, it's just a war. Right, you've dealt with like 500 fucking cunts, actual brain dead cunts, right? That you know they just tweet nonsense at you and can't conceive that they are not capable of an original idea that another equally, you know, leveled moron hasn't already said. Right? They don't understand that like. It's not an original thought to go, why do you block people for having different opinions? Like, right? They don't understand that, like, you're just regurgitating and repeating. Yeah, it's not why. I'm blocking you because you're jamming up my feed and there was 499 other dumb cunts saying the same thing before you. So now you may as well go, because also we do know that what's going to happen is if I don't answer, you're not going to like just leave it there and go, well, you didn't. You'll tweet at me again, answer me, like as if I am at your fucking beck and call. You're ringing a bell every time you tweet at me. So what I do is I'll fucking ring your bell, fucking block you and just ignore you, because there isn't a solitary thought in your head that will ever matter to me. You will never have an idea that is worth telling to anyone else ever in the fucking 80 years you exist on planet Earth. So what is the point? Like, so just you're blocked, go away, you cry about it in your Discords or whatever. That's fucking fine. But yeah, I'm the same. Like, so after 500 of them, you'll get the 501st guy, like a reasonable person will just pop up and go, you know, Rich, like, you know, probably could have just backed down from this. Like, you know, I really like your work. I've supported you. You go, fuck off, you fucking rat. Like, I give a fuck if you're a fan of my work. And it's like, it's not your fault, mate. What you're saying is reasonable. But like, I've had to deal with morons every day. So you're just getting it, aren't you? It's just how it is. So I try not to do it, but I fucking do it. So whatever. Anyway. Existence, speaking of rats, lying rats, said he was going to play forever, lied. He's actually retired and turns to coaching. So he's not going to win a major as a player, but he sort of thinks he may be able to get one as a coach.
Well, yeah, technically now he just has to coach forever.
Yeah.
He's a liar.
So the question...
Not unreasonable, I think.
I mean, obviously we should say something. He did have a great career. I think he lingered a little bit too much. And you know, he's 29. I mean, he could still be playing, but he couldn't cut the mustard for a while, if we're just honest about it. So the question now becomes, you know, existence as a coach. I think it's a role he should have transitioned into a long time.
It's the most obvious slam dunk of fucking anyone in the scene, almost, isn't it?
Exactly. So the question becomes, where's he going to go? I mean, do you think a big team's going to swoop in and put him on as a coach?
The problem there is I don't actually know how many of like the modern generation of players know enough about him or respect him. Like in that sense, that's where he has fucked his career up, Richard, is the idea. Like, here's the thing. If he'd have just been like, as far as I can tell, seems to be what Sean Gaz's take. It's like they don't ever, or Pronax, they don't seem to really want to be a coach. They just wanted to play as long as they could. And then if they're not going to do that, we'll go do something else with the career, like Sean Gaz's talent. Pronax like an owner of an org now or something bizarre. So if you wanted to do it that way, fair enough. The problem is, if after all of that, you eventually were going to be a coach, you picked the worst time to do it. Because if you'd have done it at the end of you remember in early 2016 was when he was kicked from G2, where Shocks kicked him out and they brought in Body. Was that the player? Yes, I think it was Body brought in to replace him.
Body, right?
That was the time where if you'd have just said, right, now that I can't make it the top team, I announce my retirement.
Now that I have to play with body.
Basically, I become a coach. You would literally instantly be like the top of the list of coaches. I actually think at the time, I'm pretty sure he even said it publicly. Like, I think Hastro of Envious would have hired you the next fucking day as their coach. Like, as much as you might think they had some of those players had beats, that was only his players. Someone like NBK would have hired Existence as a coach the next fucking day. Like, all these people fucked with him. Everyone from Source obviously had mad respect for him. The problem is that doesn't go that far nowadays. So if you're looking at like big orgs, the big problem at the moment is there's no reason any of the French teams would hire you because Malek's basically, that is his project at G2. And then the Extaz guy at Vitality, as far as I can tell, is one of the main reasons why they turned that shit around and became a top team. So there's no space in the French scene, which already was his problem as in IGL. So basically you need an international team, which, to tie back into what we joked about earlier, doesn't help that you've basically gone out your way for the last 20 years to tell everyone you don't speak English. When, by the way, your base level is like fluency. You are fluent, of course. So the big problem is I don't know if the other big international teams would want him. I will say this. The teams I'm in contact with, I'll recommend as a coach. I do still think good coaches are thin on the ground. So it's probably a bargain for someone if they want to pick him up.
Yeah, I mean, it could be someone to go out, you know, if you wanted to. I mean, because of the English thing, like, it's like you say, he's put like a mad limitation on himself that he just didn't need to do. Can you imagine if like Jason Lake called him up and said, "Do you want to come out to Complexity and, you know, work with all this sick like fucking science shit we got going on? They got a fucking lab, you know what I mean, and fucking all of this stuff. Like, imagine what he could do with a bunch of young players and like a dialed-in IGL. Like, I don't know." But yeah, I agree with you. I think this whole the narrative he's crafted about him not speaking English, it might hurt him because it's like you say, where are you going to go in the French scene? So, whatever. Anyway.
Then again, Peacemaker still finds teams, so stick around.
Yeah, but I think about it. He's proven a willingness to travel, coach any other teams, speaks English, right? Never, you know, so people go, well.
Oh, there's another thing as well.
Why not take Peacemaker?
There's one thing I will say is another thing you have to do in the coaching game is forget everything you did as a player. That doesn't count anymore. You have to show you're committed to being a coach. That it's not just a one-off thing you're trying. Because actually, jokes aside, what you just said about Peacemaker, it's basically the same reason why if you're a Premier League manager, odds are you will definitely get a job in another top division somewhere, even if you get fired, because the logic is that's a resume builder. You've shown you have worked at the top level. You've worked with top players. You've done the schedule. You stuck with it. You didn't quit. Like, these things matter. So I would hope, even though he says he wants to be a coach, like, he's in it for the long haul. Like, it's not going to be about the first team he goes to has to be amazing, otherwise he's going to quit. Because if you're going to quit, yeah, there is no point picking you up. You have to, that has to be like your new career that you're starting at square one.
Yeah. Anyway, let's talk about this is just a short bit of news. I'm sure you saw it and kind of probably just dismissed it with everything else that's been going on. But Neo and Taz have said they're getting the band back together. They're going to be reunited and they're going to start a new project. There was a statement that Taz put out. He said, "It's obvious that Neo and I needed to work through our past." Taz said in a statement, "When you have played together with someone for so many years, spent so much time together and shared moments of both glory and defeat, it's difficult to sort things out. Time has worked in our favor, though. It showed that the bond we have is much bigger than only the game we play together." So, I mean, this is quite famously, you know, for
translation. I have forgiven Neo for when he sided with the traitor and usurper Snax and Bialy and had me cut for my own fucking team. Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's obviously there was a grievance there, but I mean,
understandably,
yeah, sure, but it's deeper than that as well. I mean, like the myth of Neo and Taz being this simpatico relationship that was never tumultuous. No. They were always it was never like that. It wasn't like that when they first started playing together. It's you know, and over time, like an old married couple, you know, yeah, it's good when it's good. It's good when you go out for fucking dinner together and you're looking romantically into each other's eyes and think, no, all the great memories. But then when you come home and they do that one fucking thing that annoys you, or they're grinding their fucking teeth in their fucking sleep again, and you can't get to bed, like, you want to fucking you smother them with a fucking pillow, you know. You want to go full Joe Biden on them. Why? You just lose your fucking mind. So they had that kind of relationship. It was the most fucking.
I'm just thinking about And here's the thing, I don't normally actually.
I was going to say, out of the romances I've ever seen, it's the most like a marriage in Counter-Strike. Is all I was going to say.
I don't normally ever get properly buckled by politics shit, except like unironic stuff where it's just stupid and it's funny for that reason. But that thing where Joe Biden just said to that person, like, "No, listen, fat." You remember that?
Oh God!
I was crying, laughing. I'm showing it over and over again. It's like, why?
No, this is the thing, like, because you know what happened there. He didn't mean to call him fat.
No, of course not. His brain just seen a fat.
Right, don't call him fat. Don't call him fat.
I know.
Yeah. He didn't mean to call him fat. He was just like,
though.
why have I got to talk to this fat asshole? I'll explain it to him and say, listen, man. And what he's done is he's gone, listen, fat. It's fucking brilliant, like. No, it's brilliant, like.
You can never real like, from that was so mental, isn't it?
No, but mate, see, because I'm deep in this shit. Like, you've done the right thing by tapping out on American politics. But, you know, I live out here and we talk about it on stream and we do videos and stuff. So, you know, right. So, first of all, he denied he called him fat. And he said he got... I know, how? You're on fucking video, mate. Right? He busted, right? But he said...
I was calling him chat.
No, you said... I was going to say the facts are the fact. I mean, so he said, listen, fact, right? Then his camp, because everyone was mocking him for trying to deny it, came out and tried to spin it and went, let me tell you, when you've got people like Donald Trump in the White House, listen, fat is the kind of aggressive energy we need to win this nomination. No, they actually tried to make it a positive that he called like a random dude fat. That's how fucked up American politics is, man.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so anyway. But yeah, have you not seen the clip of him go, why? Have you not seen that?
Seen that one. That sounds
right. We're not the podcast isn't going one step further until you watch that clip.
Okay.
Come on,
I'm gonna sit here while you watch that clip.
Give me the link, Rich.
Is it just Biden? Why?
Okay.
Is that what I'm looking for?
I'll find
Oh, here we go. It's just the first thing you find immediately.
Yeah, of course, yeah. I'm just gonna sit here while you're watching. You can even play it on stream if you want. It's mental.
Why can't I find it?
The fuck, he's like Dennis Hopper in fucking Apocalypse Now or something. He's like, hey man.
Yesterday you said you accepted Bernie.
Why is he even got
now you're attacking? Why are you doing that?
But the guy's just saying, so why did you choose to attack Senator Sanders? Why did you do that? And he's like ignoring him. He's being dragged away by his aides. I'll shut up now if you play it.
You're getting nervous, man.
I'll let you play the full sound. But yeah, but like he's being dragged away by his aides, and he's just turned around. Because he can't handle it, mate. He's living in a world, by the way, where he's still like some sort of like muscle bound. It's like that Homer Simpson fucking meme where he's just sat in looking at himself in the mirror, and his pecs are fucking moving and stuff. Biden's living there, mate. He's living there where he thinks he's a fucking, you know, muscle man trying to fight people. He keeps coming out in these debates and going, well, I'll tell you what, like people talking about my age, let's see who could still do 50 press-ups. Oh, come on, not you, mate, for fuck's sake. There's not enough stem cells in the world. What are you talking about, you Raj cunt?
But speaking of which, this all ties back into the fact that Neo and Taz think they can still play professional Counter-Strike.
Well, no, but was it implied they were going to play it? I think.
Oh, were they implying they were going to make a team or something? Basically,
well, they just said
a decade ago
they're coming together to make a new team, and there's a recruitment process already underway. So I mean, maybe
I'm betting they're going to play, mate. These guys won't fucking quit. They just won't quit.
Can you imagine if they end up we've got a great fucking side. We've recruited Snacks, fresh from his bout of narcolepsy. Bialy, and they just fucking Pasha.
Problem is, at this point in time, that would be the best thing that could happen for them. At least they're known players. Like, one of the saddest things about the whole VP breakup is it's not only like the logic was supposed to be when these guys fell off, they'd pick the right guy from the Polish scene, he'd go up and they'd stay top tier. What we actually found was everyone in Poland is tier 2 apparently. Like, even the players who have like some talent, like they can't make a tier 1 team even if they have the talent. So
yeah, it's gone the same way as like the UK scene, it was in the spot the French scene was in for a while. Like it had top tier talent, but it all congregated in one team. When there was people that should have transitioned in, they were constantly being, there was gatekeepers in the way. There was people who wouldn't retire and were sticking around a little bit longer than they were. I mean, as well, I'll just say this: Bialy and Snacks for me, I know that it must have been tough having to eat shit from the old guard all the time.
Sure.
And that fucking Mercedes that Taz got is like...
That's one of the stupidest moves of all time.
I've never seen anything that dumb, because there is nothing more likely to sow disharmony in a team than the owner showing preference to one player. The player who also happens to be the mouthpiece of the team, who does all the interviews, that relative... Like, no, man, for fuck's sake. In that moment, they attributed all of the team's success to one guy, who arguably was a guy that was playing the worst on the team. Like, there is no fucking way on God's green earth that was like a good call. And it definitely was like a significant nail in the coffin, if not the final one. But like, I still maintain to this day, like, Snacks has utterly thrown away what could have been one of the greatest careers in Counter-Strike.
Oh, it's depressing as fuck, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, every time I think about it, and I saw him the other day, like...
Because remember, when Neo and Taz get bad, it's actually entirely appropriate. They got way more years out of their career than you'd expect. People forget, these guys got to the top level in fucking 2006. The idea they were even competing for championships, like when they won E-League Season 1, was 2016. Fucking 10 years later. That's bonkers. Whereas, like, the sad thing is, Snacks, when Virtus Pro ended, should have been primed for a couple more years. He should have like reinvented himself. He obviously got his chance in Mouse. He should have turned that into a phase type scenario. He could have done everything.
Well.
It's actually pathetic.
You forget that when Mouse paid that money for him, you were like, fucking hell, they've got Snacks. And that's one of the worst transfers of all time. He was so bad. It's like, I mean, I know there was this thing where he slept through like a game recently, and he missed a qualifier, and then the team disbanded. And he also was on a stream sort of 2 weeks prior to that, laughing and joking about how he'd slept through practice, and then he's come out and he says like he has a sleep disorder. Now, obviously, if he's got a health problem and it's legit and it's not excuses, obviously get well soon, Snacks, right? I mean, like, none of us want any player to be sick or to have their careers cut short because of it. But let's be fucking real, mate. Like, you haven't had it this entire time.
No, his problem.
You didn't have it when you went to Mouse.
It's like I always tell people, I've no doubt there's guys who get fired for being late, where they were, the time that they were fired, it wasn't their fault. There was traffic and this, but it's like no one believes you if you've been late 50 times, though. So in this case, when you have been an arsehole to loads of your former teammates, then you've played like shit and you've been arrogant at the same time, no one's going to give you the benefit of the doubt. Sorry. Like at the end, as you're saying, if you claim you have a medical illness, yeah, obviously we'll say, well, that sucks. Okay, I guess that's not your fault. But it doesn't change the fact that you did build up a terrible track record that then means that people didn't want to give you any, like, people have no time left for your Snacks. You're a shit player and outside of the game, you've done too much stupid stuff. So even if this actually isn't your fault and it genuinely is some tragic health condition, no one, I'm sorry, but most people don't give a fuck. That's just the sad reality of where you're at in your career.
Yeah, and it's like I say, right, when I think of, I mean, like, Bialy as well, to a certain degree, these players were fucking, right, there was a point where, like, Snacks, you'd argue he was the best player in the world. You know, Bialy had that like 3-month period where he was untouchable, like, just entry fragging his fucking nuts off. And, like, it's like everybody, you know, it's like you're talking about ancient history with that fucking lineup like Virtus Plow. It's really not that long ago in esports terms, you know, in sports terms. It's a few years, really. You know, it's like, and yet it's so, you watch them play today and they just don't seem interested. They don't seem to realize what they've thrown away. And that's the saddest thing. So yeah, you won't see any of those guys near this lineup with Taz and Neo. But if they're gonna go all Polish again, which I don't think they should, if they can put an international
Seems like they
lineup
will,
together.
if you had to guess.
Yeah, exactly. I think they will. And then you're like, well, all of those tier 2 Polish players that were meant to transition into being tier 1 are fucking bad. So good luck with that. I mean, I think it'll be too frustrating for them. I think the smart players, if you want to play, put an international lineup together, get some sick fucking players. You all talk English, get some sick players, and fucking try and make another OG style team of like free agents and misfits and all of that stuff, and see if it works out. If you go Polish only, you're gonna have a bad fucking time. So, right, what was the other news that's been going on? Yeah, because I said we were going to talk about North, so let's do that. Looks like MSL's getting a bit more of his way now. The coach, Mither, left. And I don't know, did you see the video?
No, what
that
did
they put
do?
out for him?
Yeah, the burning him in a Viking ship.
Was a bit weird, not gonna lie. Now listen,
Because they're
everyone
going
else
with that whole thing.
yeah, because it's the Vikings, you know, and like
right.
obviously for those that don't know, you know, I mean, I love fucking Norse mythology, and it's one of the things that I actually do like about the North brand, that you're being true to all that Viking shit. Listen, the Vikings, mate. I kind of feel like, you know, we could all got along and had a beer and gone pillaging together. Like, I'm all right with the Vikings. I like them. I like the style. You know, they were brave motherfuckers. They got on them tiny little boats with dragons' heads and went across the sea, not even knowing what was on the other side. Now, yeah, they did some pretty heinous shit when they got there, and, you know, they had some strange ideas. But still, Vikings overall for me, thumbs up, right? I'm all right with them.
They literally came to my ancestral homeland, pillaged, raped, desecrated the holy areas, and you're just cool with that. You're like Tosspot, you are.
He finally cast me out. Hey, you know, my ancestral home might have been on the other side, but I lived where they were. I know about Lindisfarne and all that. Like, you know, yeah, they cracked those fucking monks' heads open.
Just because we got to have like fucking Alf Inga Haaland at Leeds United for 2 years or something, that doesn't make up for it. Denmark/Norway, y'all need to pay them reparations to me, starting now.
But the video they did, right, like, because I love what they were going for, like, oh, he's a warrior and he's moved on, and the burnt board, and it was like, it looked like the Banner Saga, if anyone's ever played that game. You know, nice, like, sort of animation stuff. I really liked it thematically. It was just like, it is legit looked like a tribute to someone who died, right? And everyone was replying, going, did he die? Did he die? And I think even he had to put a tweet out going, contrary to all the questions on the internet, I am not dead. It's like, fucking hell. But I actually liked it thematically. I thought it was good. But they literally showed a picture of him with, like, coins on his eyes. It's like, for fuck's sake. What have you done that for? Not the coins on the eyes, surely. Like, but yeah. Anyway, the point of the bit is, he's gone, and based on the twitlonger he put out, it weren't his choice. And with MSL coming back to the team as an IGL, you know, they're like, we're going to go in a different direction. Kind of suggests to me that maybe MSL and Mither were kind of maybe at odds. They did have that first pro performance on MSL's return, the first event they attended. So something had to
what
change.
The problem is? It's also because the tweet even starts, to our fallen brothers and sisters.
Yeah, fallen brother,
like,
yeah.
Yeah, why are you putting all that in? It's like, you have gone out of your way to make it seem like he is dead.
Yeah, I mean, but I don't think they meant to. It's just kind of like, they haven't quite fine-tuned what they're going for over in the North brand, innit? They just haven't fine-tuned it, mate. Like, you know, they've got a buck-toothed dragon, right? That
I'll never get. I can't look at that. I just can't see it. It's too much.
Anyway, so the question becomes like, what do you think of this? And is this a better move because it's going to give MSL a bit more autonomy over this team?
From what I remember, because you have to realize that when Jumpy became the coach of Fnatic was a couple of years ago now. I think it was actually,
sorry, I should have added that as well. Jumpy's joined as the coach.
I think it was during E-League Season 2, actually. I think it was when we were still back there. So
yeah,
from what I remember, he was actually the coach when they had some like half-decent Fnatic teams, and he is someone where, from talking to him back in the day in 1.6, he seemed like he knew some stuff, like he was an IGL himself, you know. So I don't think it's a bad shout. I will say, like, props to them for being willing to go outside of the Danish talent pool, because obviously with how many people in Counter-Strike have stuck around in Denmark, even from the old Source days, you do have, it would be very easy to just only ever go with Danish people. So it's actually a fairly decent sign that they're looking for someone different, that they've gone with a Swede, bearing in mind they're a Danish company. I'd also suspect you could tie it into what you just said before, which is it does seem like they are catering to MSL. So I would assume he's signed off on this, thinks it's a good pickup. So I don't think it's a bad shout. I think it's not a bad one. I'll say that the problem I have with the Mythar one is, like a lot of coaches, they tend to be people you barely know. So you're just assuming that the players vouch for them. The problem is, because we haven't had many of the existences and God Beats of the World retire, we can't really have the blockbuster coaches yet that I wish we did have, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the jumpy thing for me is a strange one because, I'll just out and out say this. I know he's been part of big teams, obviously Fnatic, and he had a lot of tenure there. He was there for a good long time, and he was part of some successful teams. He's never convinced me as a coach. I've never seen anything from him. Now I don't have any particular insight. I've never been, behind. All I see is what's kind of going on with the team and what I've heard in the scene and people talk. He always kind of felt more like, one of those guys that we kind of, more of a moral support kind of dude. Kind of like that thing. So more like a sort of motivator. And it is strange. I mean, obviously MSL will know better than me, but the way I've interpreted this move is that what we all know MSL when shit's going bad on the server, he is a blunt motherfucker. Like he is not going to massage your ego and tell you it's going to be okay. He's going to tell you if you keep playing like this, we're going to fucking lose. So get your head out your ass. He's that kind of dude. He's got no time for any other style. It's just who he is. And I think they wanted to find somebody that was maybe a bit like less rough around the edges, somebody that can do the motivational aspects that MSL sort of struggles to do, because that's what you need. You don't need a tactician. You've got MSL. So that's how I interpreted this move. But that could be, again, I might just be like one of those idiots I was talking about earlier, like crafting a narrative on things I imagined. But does that sound plausible to you?
I do think that's one of the areas MSL in his actual game has been the most lacking. Like I've always told him, he's a perfect example of one of those guys where it's like you've got to have like a bit of tact that you build into it. Even if you are correct, even if the player you're talking to is wrong and he's doing the wrong thing and you're telling him the right thing, you still got to have a little bit of charisma. Like I've just noticed a lot of the great IGLs, they have that extra element where it's like the way that they talk to the player is what gets the message across, not the fact that they're right. I mean, listen, it's obviously hard to be fucking right all the time and to be one of the best IGLs. So I get why some people think they can just sit in their little lane and go, that's what I do. I just do it this way. But it's like there's a reason why you get passed over for the biggest gigs though, mate. Like your resume should have made, you should already be like the IGL of FaZe right now. But there's a reason why people are still out on you a bit. So if he has indeed got someone like that, it's probably the right sort of coach to work with him. Like he doesn't need that much help in the game, but he definitely needs help with some of the more social aspects of being a leader, I'd say.
Mm. And then we've had the announcement today that there's going to be a change at Katowice. I'm quite excited about this because when we had that incident at the ESL finals in Odense, where one of the most egregious examples of a crowd helping a player occurred with Xyp9x on overpass, kind of looking up to the window 3 times, and the crowd going, yeah, no, he's definitely there on the 3rd time. And then Xyp9x giving the most ridiculous statement I've ever read, where he was going, this was just genuine excitement and an accident. Like, fucking hell, mate. You're on home soil in Denmark. You're the biggest Danish team. It was 3 times in a fucking row. Like, and we all know that you were deliberately looking for it. So how are you ever going to come out and defend it? But whatever.
I feel bad for Xyp9x though. He was probably just
he's in a terrible position. He can't mug off the fans. I get
my
it,
old mate Nikolai's lying 10 times every sentence, and you're letting him get away with it. I can't. Lies. Like, give me a break.
Yeah, true. But no, obviously me and Xyp9x are coup d'etat. Like, there's nothing bad there. He, like you say, he's in a terrible position. But I went and did a video about it. Well, I did a stream where I was asked about the soundproof booths thing. I'm not a fan of them. I don't like them. I think for a variety of reasons, which can be summed up as, first of all, the science is like, soundproof is not accurate because even if you dampen sound, you don't dampen visual. You don't dampen.
It's basically the self-driving car of the audio world, as far as I can tell.
Yes. So that's where we're at with it. There's definitely ways to get complete soundproofing, but the other thing is the costs it adds to a TO, and we all know the margins are really slim already to have $1 million soundproof booth. And let me tell you, there's a massive difference between, say, the ones they have at TI and the ones that they have at, like, the other ones I've been in, like, for example, at Gfinity. That's no disrespect to a Gfinity, but obviously they're working within a budget as well, right? So and I think overall it's not worth it. Players love them because it takes the pressure off. because you don't have the crowd and that atmosphere. It feels like you're just in a little LAN environment, a little boot camp environment. That's why players like them. It's not just about the efficacy of what they do. And keep in mind as well, by the way, the only reason that players are sort of even able to pick up on certain things is because they go looking for it by fucking holding open their fucking speak button and stuff, so they can hear the audio coming through from the crowd or hear the commentators. So whatever. So I'm not a fan. I think it ruins the fan experience. I like thinking of it like a sport event where there's a connection between the fans and the players. And I always said, you fix it by just throwing out the disruptive cunts at an event, like you would at any other sports event. If some goon at Wimbledon keeps shouting when people are trying to fucking serve, you throw them out. And they've just wasted their fucking vastly expensive tickets, strawberries and cream everywhere, and they look like a right cunt. So that's what you have to do. And I never thought there would be a tournament organizer that kind of had the stones to basically fall in line with that approach, because they do pander to the crowds, don't they? So anyway, ahead of IEM Katowice, what they've announced they're going to do is they've brought in measures that are basically designed to make the crowd understand to not do it and to let epic plays play out as they're happening without any sound giveaways and sound cues. So what their proposed measures are, first of all, they're going to be educational. There's going to be PSA videos. They're going to do like what we did at E-League, where people are going to tell them if you reveal anything, if you interfere with the game, you're getting thrown out. And they're going to make it clear what situations are okay and what aren't. But on top of that, if somebody does transgress and it impacts on the integrity of the tournament, they will disable X-ray on the arena monitors for everybody for a minimum of 20 minutes, which obviously that is going to hamper your viewing experience, but it's going to, I mean, it shuts off the ability stone dead for you to interfere with the game. In fact, there's an argument why not just have that as the default state, because I think we use X-ray too much. But I definitely want to get your opinion. There's a video about it on my YouTube channel if anyone cares about mine. What do you think of these measures?
Yeah, the key thing to me is because they can manage it at large-scale sporting events like you referenced, it must be possible in esports. Like, it just must be, not least because we're also sometimes even filming the fucking crowd. You could maybe even track down who these people are and get it sorted. So in that scenario, I'm open to it. I know Chad, actually, we were talking about this when we were at Blast Premier. He even had an idea, which is a pretty good one, which is, like, why don't they have, when the camera that they show the actual crowd, why even have X-ray on theirs? Like, it would make sense to have X-ray for us at home who are on the street.
Yeah, Sponge was specifically referenced actually in the statement. Yeah.
Like, I think his point is pretty bang on. Is if you're going to be in the stadium, you're already enjoying it from a different experience anyway. Why not have all the suspense of not knowing who's behind that wall? So then it just doesn't even happen as much, does it? It would still a little bit like if you went between the POVs, they could maybe do it. But I do feel as though X-ray is what was ruining it, because I think it's a mixture of the most ignorant fans who don't know anything about the game and people just seeing X-ray on their screen and just reacting like you're saying, like, oh, yes, behind your crosshair now. Like, I think a lot of them wouldn't even have the wherewithal to know that, even if they saw that the guy on a different POV was behind that wall. I don't think they'd put two and two together quick enough to do the coordinated chant. So if there's any measures by which you can fix it without booths, do it. I would say this. If we get to a point where people have long-term leagues and tournaments that are from the same venue, now you can look in and get in the booth because you don't have to transport it. The problem is, if we're going to do the roadshow style events that we currently do in CS, it doesn't seem like it logistically makes sense, especially in a world where every TO, including ESL, is in a fucking really rough economical spot.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm looking. I'll wait and see. Like, I guess at the end of Katowice, we'll have an idea about the efficacy of it. But ultimately, I think it does come down to. I knew it was going to be a divisive thing. I saw a lot of people on Twitter going, "Oh, this is not the way to resolve it."
Mate, I don't know if you remember this, but when that thing happened at ESL Pro League Finals, the one in Odense, stupid Carmack was even making tweets that were along the lines like, "We encourage people to be vocal and to enjoy themselves at our show." Like, again, like some mad shill PR bot that he's turned into the last 10 years. Who knows why? But fair play to ESL for being the first to do it. I mean,
yeah, absolutely. It was interesting as well because I asked them, while this was coming out, I asked them for a bit of context and some comment about it, and they said they have actually removed people from venues before. It's just not something they publicize or popularize.
I hope they do publicize it then.
Yeah. Well, no, Carmack even had an interaction with someone on Twitter. Like I think an Australian player. I couldn't tell if they were joking or not, but he was saying like, "Oh, we threw this guy out, and he's rehabilitated now, and we're going to let him back for the next event." He understands. So maybe that's like not just banter between two people who happen to know each other.
We've got him down to 5 corral holes a minute.
No, he was Australian, I think. So I think he might have been the shoey guy. Who knows, the shoey martyr. I don't know. But anyway, so there you have it. That's like a news roundup. There'll be some other stuff to talk about, but for now, we're going to segue into our patron questions and see what nonsense you've thrown at us this show. Jice says, which team would you want to see a produced behind-the-scenes video in a similar way to Ents has done? I'll say straight up, fucking don't give a Anyway,
Oh, hello, lag.
You would call it that, but I mean, working.
That sounds like some
progress.
sort of fucked up
Hang on, I
expose
just had
about
some lag
Ethan
there.
back in the day or something like what?
The last like
What-
5 seconds lagged out, but I think we're back.
Oh, okay, we're back. So yeah, anyway, so
Okay,
Jai said, maybe call it Lords of the Locker Room. Lords of the Locker Room sounds like one of those fucking
like
unreal
one of those
gear
videos on the
porn
top
videos
shelf,
where they're
exactly.
just wrestling. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
But anyway, so which team would I want to see? It's a very good question. I think right now, like if I just bring up the top 10, the ones that would interest me, I mean, I think OG, that would be super interesting, just because it's like an international project and there might be different types of frictions and issues that are going to crop up there. I think as well, like EG seem to have like some interesting personalities, big personalities, but also some of the younger players we don't really know too much about, like the former like NRG guys. Like they haven't done a lot of content to kind of like help put their name out there. Whereas Team Liquid, we all know about Stewie, we all know about the Liege and stuff. So that'd be interesting. But I'm sure EG will be doing something like that. I'm trying to think of some ones a bit more further afield.
One of the obvious ones feels like FaZe Clan. Like I still to this day don't know why FaZe Clan doesn't want to have a reality show about that team.
That would be
Think about
insane.
the egos in that team. Like
yeah, no, but that would be insane.
But that's what would be straight fire, because what's brilliant is their team of players, with the exception of Rain and Olaf, they wouldn't be able to keep their egos in check 24 hours a day while being recorded.
No.
You'd get some straight fire for sure. Absolutely for sure.
All right, then yeah, I'd like it, especially if Nico and Cold are like going to bed like
that'd be amazing
at the end of a night, like you know what I mean? Yeah, it'd be good. So the next question is from Reykjavik on Steam. Why are the CS subreddit and Twitter fans such unbelievable cretins? It's like I said, it's the internet, man. It's just like where we're at right now. I alluded to it earlier. People don't want to actually. Everyone's attention span has been so fucking diminished that even the idea of reading like 1,000 words is like insane to people. And what they say is, listen, give me the gist. Just give me the gist. Break it down into what they're saying without any nuance and context, and then I'll tell you how I feel about it. And obviously, when you start removing arguments and ideas and concepts from the context in which you're explaining them and the nuance as to how you've arrived at this conclusion, and if you remove all of that and you just get it to, like, for example, I'm going to put an article out in a day or two saying, these are the exclusivity wars, this is the history of it, and this is why my stance has softened a little bit on it, the concept of exclusivity, because as compared to when I was against it in 2015. Now basically what's going to happen there is when it goes out, people are going to go, I don't want to read 1,500 words, because no one takes any enjoyment in that anymore. Like I write articles that are there you have to enjoy reading. I have a particular style. If you don't enjoy reading in general, you're not going to enjoy something I write. So what's going to happen is, well, what's the gist of it? Richard Lewis says he's for exclusivity now. And then, well, of course he is. He's a fucking shill. He's best mates with Duncan, isn't he, over at fucking Flashpoint? Yeah. And that's what's going to happen, right? Because that's just where we're at. So on Reddit and Twitter, a lot of the time you're dealing with kids as well, don't even have fully formed fucking brains. I mean, some of them behave like they've got fucking fetal alcohol syndrome, let alone fucking fully formed fucking brains. But, that's just the internet, man. Like, no one's got time to listen to your fucking shit. They just want to know, do I need to be angry about this thing? And and that's it. It was that they did it to Ninja the other day, Duncan. Right? We literally did that BTN episode where I said, "Should you be angry if you lose?" And I went, "Yeah, absolutely." You know, and explain like why that you should be angry. Ninja had tweeted out the same thing, and he got wrecked for it. He got wrecked for it because they were going, "Well, you're just advocating for toxicity." And you're saying that it's okay to punch a fucking hole in your wall when you lose a game of Fortnite. And I'm like, what is happening here? And like, I never thought I'd feel sorry for Ninja, but fucking hell, like, I don't know why he bothers me. I would just take my money and just fucking go sleep on it and just fuck you all.
I think here's
There's an
the thing,
internal
though.
matter with it.
You've picked a great example there. Because since Ninja's, even his on-camera persona, it's not like he's Dr. Disrespect. He's not trying to go the banter angle and like flame people or anything. So the idea that Ninja, who, if anything, if you asked me to critique him, all of my critique would just be my own subjective things I dislike. Like, I think he's too milquetoast. He's just so like cynically dumbed down for stupid 12-year-old game. But the idea that that guy, a guy who basically, I won't say he's sold out because I actually think some of that is just who he is as a person. But like, if someone else behaved that way, they would just be basically being a sellout to try and succeed, right? The idea even that guy's getting dragged over the coals for every fucking minor thing sums up the current state of media and like social media especially. Whereas I always say social media is fucking pure doublespeak. It's anti-social media. It's just people behaving in a way they would never behave in any social setting online. And as a result, it actually degrades your humanity to interact with it.
Oh, no, it totally does. It does. And he also threw in a little butt pounder S joke question. Reykjavik on Steam's never done that, so I'll let him have this one. Okay. What is more preferable, watching D-Man stream Football Manager or cock and ball torture? So, I mean, why not both? I guess fucking where I go with that one. I mean, if I can have D-Man playing Bury and whoever's in the same league as those cunts now, you know, while I'm having a nice cock and ball torture, why not? Maybe he can get cock and ball tortured while he's doing it. Sure, we'd all enjoy it. The thing is, mate, I know what's
something
going.
Really sad. This is actually the saddest
no, here
thing
we
of
go.
all. This is so depressing.
The saddest thing of all. While we're talking about cock and ball torture, I'm ready.
D-Man basically is the Snacks of commentators, because once upon a time he was top tier. But this is how bad it's gotten, Richard. I'm actually someone who's pretty famous, obviously from my memory, right? Yeah. And the reason why I can't actually make a joke about D-Man is I legitimately can't remember which is his catchphrase and which is Victor Meldrew's. I don't know which way around it is now. Who is it who said I do not believe, and who is it who can't believe? I don't know which way around it is now. So that's not just against you.
Victor Meldrew was I do not believe it.
Right, then D-Man's supposed to be
so D-Man is I can't believe it.
There we go. I cannot believe he's just turned that fight around, Joe.
They never.
I won't even do the Joe Mother accent. Like,
never even.
Why is he going to fucking Barrow?
I don't know, mate.
Tell you what, that fucking goal difference. By half.
I'll just be real about it. Like it was tough. That watching what D-Man sort of became, because it's just the fucking ego monster got him. I mean, that's all that was. Like
I also thought he bounced back. Like, you know something weird, right? It actually made me realize
when he was like the ESL executive and was coming into CS.
But, like, this is the thing that's fucked up. Is I actually realized this is the problem I've noticed in the world, is that anyone who's successful, you actually what mad is you carry a weird, almost like chauvinism where you think everyone else can succeed. You think like, well, if they just work hard and they keep improving, like, so as a result, like, as funny as it might have been that he had those minor failures from Riot, or he was a bit of a dickhead to people in CS and he got wrecked a little bit, I assumed he'd just bounce back and become like a top guy in another game, or maybe even work his way back in CS. So to actually see how far down he's fallen now, it's actually not even funny at all. It's depressing, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, listen, like, it's like I say, right? So I've probably talked about this before, but back in the day, he used to be a Call of Duty commentator, Call of Duty 4 specifically, and he was great. He was so good at that game. He loved that fucking game. He was integral to that scene, and he was super fucking down to earth. And he would always come out drinking with us, and afterwards, I came to that late and started covering it. And I only did it once or twice because Tech9 couldn't send a reporter, and Heaven Media owned both websites. The one I was at was Cadred, and I said, listen, send me to all of that shit, because that scene's fucking straight fire and everyone in it is fucking really cool, and they know how to have a good time, and they know how to keep secrets when people are having a good time. This is where I want to be, and it's how I got to know Pansy, and all of this stuff. A lot of good come out of that. But what happened afterwards was when Riot Games descended into the scene, they were basically reaching out to like well-liked commentators in every scene and buttering them up and saying like, come do our game and come do this and come do that. And D-Man obviously sensed like, oh, maybe this will be a big thing. And it was just nice to have a developer, because it wasn't like you got that doing Call of Duty. Like a developer come to you and say, hey, what do we need to give you to like get you commentating on our game and stuff. He had a good relationship with Joe, and that's like the early genesis of how that was born. And then just what happened when that game blew up and he blew up, like he went from being the down-to-earth guy that would have a drink with you in a fucking circle, an iSeries, to literally like, can't hang around with you guys. I've got to have a meeting with Riot. He was like full rock starring it up, coming in with shades and a bag with a little wheelie thing, a fucking scarf, little fucking dog under his arm, like just ridiculous shit. And you just like, the little dog's an exaggeration. The rest of the shit's fucking real. I saw him one time. I thought he had fucking Botox done or something. He looked so unreal. He said, I've just been in makeup. I'm like, we're in a fucking hotel lobby. What the fuck's going on?
Was it like when Homer got that like just massive clip on his back to pull off his fat back?
Yeah, it was like, yeah, it was. I'm thinking about getting that done. It was just insane. Like how he just went from being this like down to earth guy to when Riot was at the top. And then of course, obviously, remember how he got that job working for Riot was basically leveraging the community on Twitter, going, if I can't get a full-time job at Riot Games, I'll just have to bloody quit, and I'm only the voice of the game, and wouldn't it be awful if I couldn't cast League no more? So he played his fucking cards perfect. And of course, because Riot Games do everything Reddit tells them to do, because they're just on fucking 24/7 panda duty, and anytime they can get fucking free PR, they just dive in and do it. But not if it's going to cost them like too much, or not if it's like a really negative story they'll have to come out and do right by. Fuck that. Then you just tell the mods to delete it. But anyway, so the reality there is like he got his way into Riot, and after he'd done that, he thought, I'm the fucking shit. And then of course he decided to move across to ESL, quite famously, and immediately inserted himself as sort of an executive and had like this executive privilege. And he didn't just come to CS and like take his licks, like a new game, you've got FPS experience, sure, but it's very different to Call of Duty. He had no interest in that. He like literally wanted to break up partnerships so he could commentate with the other big names. Like, so Semler and Anders can't commentate together. It's got to be Semler and D-Man or Anders and D-Man. And I'm like, why is he even doing that? I mean, the only other person I've seen do that is Dr. Avela at that fucking stupid event we worked in Serbia, where he was like, right, lads, we're doing a TriCast. It's me, James Bardolph, DDK. Like, what the fuck is going on? So that's the level he was operating out of ego. And then when the community were like saying to him, like, why do you not fucking just not do this? He was going, well, it's fucking ridiculous. That people are implying I'm doing this. The end result is there. Well, and then of course it was famously at fucking Cologne where he said, right, I guess I just won't be in the final doing a TriCast then or something. It's like, yeah, don't be. You've already made the money. You've already got the executive privilege. Just wield it sensibly. But his fucking ego couldn't do it. And then when he was getting banged on by the community, he would say stuff like, yeah, I think one of the worst decisions I ever made was coming to cast CS. And then the community made that Reddit thread about it. D-Man says it was a bad decision. And he goes, look at Reddit taking me out of context. I'm like, fucking, what is going on? So I've just never seen anything like it, like the hubris it took. And then obviously it's kind of sad now because he's nowhere sort of compared to where he was in terms of following. There'll be people coming into esports now who even know who the fuck I am and not know who the fuck D-Man is. That's a travesty. I'm a fucking journalist, for fuck's sake. He was one of the biggest commentators in the world.
You've got a good voice. You ever thought of doing League of Legends?
Yeah.
It's probably at that level.
I know, it's mental, isn't it? Like, it really is crazy. But he did come back, and didn't he do like a Call of Duty reunion thing recently?
I heard him and Tosspot did some like Call of Duty 4 LAN or some shit. I don't know much about it because first of all, I don't give a fuck about Call of Duty, and then secondly, ditto for D-Man and fucking Tosspot. But I heard on Twitter or something, someone said something like that. I assume it was like a special tribute game or something to get the old band back together.
But anyway, so yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. I wish some stuff that happened. Like I fucked up as well. Like there was that one time he sent me that email, and you know, I fucking tweeted it out that I got the email from him, and by accident, well, because I'd fucking did it on an iPad and I just got it and I had a boomer moment. A lot of people always like they always frame that as, oh, I outed a source on the story. It was nothing to do with the story I was working on. It was like a courtesy he sent me to explain why Riot Games had basically like failed to honor an embargo essentially, and obviously that must have fucked him up at Riot. So, you know, I was like, it was a mistake. It was nothing to do with the story. I didn't out a source, as people always like to say. But the reality is, like, it definitely fucked him up at Riot Games. Like, there's no two ways about that. He even said to me at the time, and he went, and now I never speak to you again. That was the last thing D-Man ever said to me. And he's been as good as his word. But, you know, I mean,
the real irony was eventually he'll never speak to anyone again.
I know.
But obviously, just
now,
sports, not death, of course. Just
and now and now I will speak to 50 people about my football manager. You ever watched fucking League of Gentlemen?
Sure, classic.
You remember that series?
Yeah.
You can't show it now. No one even talks about it now.
So dark.
Too much, mate. Too much. Not cut out for the modern day. But anyway, you know that character who was in the band Creme Brulee?
Yes.
Les McCool or whatever he's called.
There you go.
And like he always keeps thinking he's going to get an in back into it. And then at the end, whenever people have just fucked him over, he goes, yeah, wasn't interested anyway. It's a shit business. And he's always got that like, far away look at the tear, and he's like, that's fucking D-Man has turned into Les McCool. That's where he's at. Anyway, fuck that. We spent way too long on that question. Some mid-raisins. What would it take for Kenny S to leave G2 and join FaZe or another international lineup? Let me tell you. In my opinion, and you know, I think he's been cruising a little bit in these French times. Now I know he loves G2 and he loves Ocelot and he's the man over there. So some players like that. Some players don't mind playing in a lesser team if the team is about them and they've got the star power and they've got the influence. I think if G2 have a bad time in 2020 and like I'm talking like some embarrassing finishes, not even vaguely competitive, I think it's something that would cross his mind, and he would certainly be a player that could, you know, walk into the likes of FaZe or another international lineup.
Oh no! By the way, fluency. Funny thing is, this is actually an example I'd give to an existence of why like they don't understand how good their English is. Existence's English is better than Kenny S's, as much as like his vocabulary is better, his syntax better. But the difference is Kenny S just speaks all the time, every day, every event in English, so he has no problems whatsoever with that. Like I think he'd be fine. Obviously, his game is still straight fire. I actually think he's someone where people probably don't consider him because they still think G2 is a French team. But if they're open now to international players, he should be one of the names people are trying to go out and sign. Like, obviously, he's still a fucking banging player. People forget how young he is. I think he's only something like 25 now. Like, he's still got a few years left in him at least. So I think it's probably inevitable one day he'll play in an international team, because if you notice, G2 as a team seems to be committed to that path. And once you've played with enough people who aren't French and there's no top French team, basically, unless he joins Vitality, surely logically he will end up in an international team. If not, if he leaves G2, it just seems obvious at this point in time.
Yeah. Right. So, what's the other question we've got? Alex the Alchemist. Hey, Rich, just curious because you're a football fan. If you have a list of your top 3 most favorite footballers of all time from any era, I mean, that's like another one of the mad long questions, Alice. And to Thorin, who are your 3 favorite tennis players, or which ones do you enjoy watching the most? I mean, for footballers, it's like super hard because it's like, obviously, you know, ones I've seen actually in the fucking flesh. I mean, I remember watching fucking Gianfranco Zola at a game, Newcastle Chelsea. Fuck me, that kid could play. He weren't even a kid. They'd signed him from Parma. I think he was fucking 30 when he joined Chelsea or something. He was fucking unreal though. Like, and there's a massive difference when you've watched, like, I've seen Bergkamp play live, I've seen Zola play live, I've seen Thierry Henry play live, Faustino Asprilla, I was there when he made his debut against Newcastle and came off the bench, and we won 2-1. You know, so I've seen some mental players play, but then obviously the ones that you fucking love and you have a fondness for, like I got to see Peter Beardsley in his twilight years. He's never making a fucking top 20 footballer list, but he was fucking great for us and great at what he did. Shearer, I used to watch him week in, week out. So it's really tough. And then you get into the international ones, like where, you know, you've been blessed to see Zidane play or something like that. And obviously Zidane was fucking straight fire. I even love the way he went out with a fucking headbutt. Why not? What a fucking animal. Love that guy. So really, really tough question to ask, to answer rather. I don't know. Anyone who's played well at Newcastle will do it for me. But I'll have a think. I do have I will say I do have a fondness for the old days, like the 90s Premier League. Yeah, I do have a fondness for that. And it's not just nostalgia. It's like I know the quality is worse, but there is almost like a level of mechanics now where it's like very much go through the motions. The only team that excites me to watch at the moment, I mean, definitely not Newcastle. I do love watching Liverpool at the moment. I mean, that is like, goes without saying. What they're doing is incredible. But, you know, the Premier League's a little bit stagnant for me, honestly. So what about tennis?
I'll mirror some of that, because the thing is, like, my favorite era of tennis was the 90s. Not just because I was a kid, but also actually at the time, without boring people. Basically, the problem with tennis is, like, they slowed all the courts down. Everyone's racket technology got way too good. And that's why, like, every game is played behind the fucking baseline. And there's no, like, I loved watching tennis, like, at Wimbledon when it was fucking serve and volley, and you would go in and try, like, daring moves that were high risk and high risk, high reward, but it could work and it could change the whole game. And as a result, you had all stylistic matchups, whereas now everyone plays a fairly similar style. So even though overall, like, my favorite player ever is Federer, that's mainly just because actually he is a throwback. Like, he could have been a 90s tennis player, basically. Like, his game's all round, like, it's a sit one-hander. So he doesn't really play the style that the others do as much, except in as much as you have to. So aside from Federer, I won't take any of the modern day players. I'll take Agassi as one of my all-time favorites. First of all, had a sick attitude, like a rock and roll type guy. By the way,
back when he had hair, mate, when he first come in with that long fucking mane, he looked like Shawn Michaels or something like.
And remember, that's a sport where, in theory, you're not supposed to have rock stars. It's supposed to be a gentleman's sport, isn't it? So the idea he had, like, the attitude, but he also had a mad game as well. Like, what an amazing fucking returner that guy was. An unbelievable heart. So big fan of his. And then if we're doing three, I'll pick as another one, just because this is actually a fun one to pick. It ties into if people know the kinds of players I like in esports games. I'll say Goran Ivanisevic, the Croatian player. And the reason
when he won Wimbledon on that wild card, that's like one of the greatest sporting moments of all time.
For sure.
For
sure. Like, what a mad outside chance that was. So
that is insane. But that's like if Virtus Pro got the old Virtus Plow team together now and they went to a major somehow and they won the whole fucking thing out of nowhere. It's insane.
But that's also why I pick him, is because, like, first of all, he had a mad, like, mechanical skill. He was obviously one of the best servers. He had a monster serve. But the problem was, this is why people will see the similarity of a lot of the esports players I like, he didn't always have it together mentally. Like, he was a guy who was too hard on himself and he was just going raging in the matches. And so most of those players, sadly, have careers like that, where you make a million semis or finals and you're always losing. And then people are like, why can't they get over the hump? But the difference is he got to have that miracle ending that was like some shit out of a movie, like you're saying. Like, the idea at the end, you do win it all when you're supposed to finally be washed up. There's so many players I've wished that would happen for in esports that it never did. So Existence is a great example where if he could have just had that one last major he'd have won and then rode off in the sunset, it'd be perfect. But it so rarely ever happens in life. Like, so I'll pick that just because it kind of fits all my idiosyncrasies, you know.
Jerky's Minion. What was the most wholesome moment after a team won a trophy in esports and not just CS? Ooh, that's a tough one. I mean, I've seen in like some events back when it was like smaller, you know, when the scene was smaller. Like, I've definitely been at events where, like, literally, like, you know, they've split the money. You know, the prize money's come in. It weren't a lot. They've said, fuck it, we'll go 50-50 on the prize money now. Let's all go out and get drinking because it's like two teams that know each other or whatever, you know. I've seen stuff like that. I mean, you know, I thought Dupree.
I was thinking of this right now.
Yeah,
after his dad passed away.
Yeah, his father.
I think it was Katowice last year. I think so. Yeah, that was.
I mean, like
if you can just actually fucking make your win if you can attribute it to someone who just recently passed. That's a pretty wholesome fucking storyline, right?
And not just that though, because you know what the subtext is there. You know, you have been able to achieve excellence under what is one of the most awful
of course.
things that can happen to you, and with all of that turmoil going on in your head. So I mean, that's not a bad shout at all. I mean, you know, when you're drawing on the whole of esports, it's one of those things. If I could sit down and like kind of, you know, research it a little bit and jog my memory, I could probably come up with some other stuff. But yeah, Dupree was very much on my mind when I saw
that was actually the one I was thinking of. I'll give you one other one, just because
Yeah.
I actually do think, believe it or not, that this wasn't a troll. Even though I've mentioned many times that Simple definitely knows how to play the political game now, and that's one of the things he learned was like a bit of tact and when to say the right thing. I actually do think genuinely that when his team lost that DreamHack Masters Marseille in 2018 to Astralis, even though, by the way, his stat line for that tournament, fuck coldzera and anyone else to ever play this game. Like, his stat line at that tournament was he averaged over 1 kill per round and he lost the tournament. So if you did that right, you are the most justified player ever to be salty about losing. But when he actually did that moment where he came out and he applauded Astralis on stage when they won, I actually think he genuinely meant it. Because if people don't realize at that point in his career, he actually had sort of passed through the threshold where I'm actually sure he, of everyone, understood that even though as a player he was the best player in the server, he wasn't on the best team. And he actually understood in that moment that, like, the best team is the one that should win, unfortunately. So I actually thought that was quite a cool moment when you consider all the shit he's been through in his career.
And it wasn't like a tournament win for them, but you know, when NIP lost to the Hellraisers team, it wasn't Hellraisers, right? It wasn't a Star, or was it Virtus Pro?
They were Virtus Pro when they first lost ever.
Yeah, and then they went on. Yeah. So when the streak ended, basically, and you just saw that NIP just they weren't sad, they didn't get angry. That was probably like the one time it's like, listen, you were winning everything anyway. You went on this streak that'll never be done again. So yeah, that's probably the one time don't be angry after a loss. And they were really like gracious in defeat, even though they had this legendary streak, big smiles on their face. I mean, they've even told me as well. They said like the pressure they were putting on themselves to maintain the streak and win every game. There was a little bit of relief in there when they lost because they knew, okay, streak's over now. Now we can just go back and we can just play a regular, you know, Counter-Strike again, and we can, you know, we don't have to worry about this like history. So yeah, I think all of those are good shouts. And then the last question, and unfortunately you're going to get brushed off a little bit because we sort of did talk about this earlier, was Madam saying now that Zeus and Edward have been out of Na'Vi for a bit, what can or should Na'Vi change to become number one? Now, I'll just add to what we talked about earlier and just say there's a world where this lineup they've got now can be the number one team in the world. Frankly, you know,
It's not impossible.
they'll need a few other things to go right. They'll need Liquid to keep going to pieces. They'll need Astralis to play like they did at the Blast and like have a big drop off. They'll need Mouse Sports to choke a little bit and get a bit of deer in the headlights. Now they're back in number two. They'll need EG to keep shit in the bed. But if all of those things happen, and those things are happening now, or potentially are about to happen, then there's no reason that Na'Vi can't swoop in. I think they're a much more complete team than a Vitality, say, or you know, whatever. So I think there's a world where Na'Vi could be the number one team in the world.
When you have as much talent as they have in Simple and Electronic as your stars, and then you have like the average level of ability across all the players now, because that's the key thing is no Zeus and Edward. Absolutely, it's possible. I won't say it'll happen because it's still like a puzzle to be figured out. But the difference is that's a puzzle that you're starting, knowing it can be completed. Like that should be possible with two players that good.
Yeah, and they got a good vibe around about them now. They do seem to be a lot, you know, like fuck it. You know, the worst happened. We were meant to come when Guardian was here. We were meant to start winning immediately. We didn't. It was a bit of a flop. He's gone. We got Perfecto in. We made it to a final at our first event with just a few days prep. You know, roll on Katowice. Anyway, so there you have it. Just now to do our final shout outs to wrap up the show, and then we'll be doing one sometime after Katowice. We'll give a shout out, of course, to our sponsors. .com. We did a delayed ad read in there, well, you know, but they're great sponsors. They don't even mind. They like our ad reads. They're a great sponsor. You can go to CS as well, their YouTube channel, not just about the website. They do content as well. And if you head over there, you'll find interviews with me, some great stuff with Fnatic. You know, they did one the other day that kind of blew up where I can't even remember who it was. No, in fact, it was with Config. I don't even think it was with Member of Fnatic. They asked, like, which players do you think are overrated? Oh, no, was it Nifty? Was that the one?
I think
Anyway.
it's 50.
Yeah. So, you're always doing these, like, nice little snippets. They send crews to events, and they get, like, some cool short-form content, short staccato questions. It's definitely a YouTube channel worth subscribing to. So go over to CS and do that. And of course, to our patrons that brought the podcast back from the dead, our $100 patrons, Jerky's Minion, Alice the Alchemist, Madams, and Rekovic on Steam, and our $50 patrons, Benakagi Assassin, Butt Pounder 420, Carve, Colin Penny, Flacksmith, J Dubs, Jace, Lipscomb Davis, Madsen, Marcus Kjumpar, Mike Feedme, Nikolai Lundgren, PBN, Sadzawar, Some Made Raisins, TC Owens, Tobias Bernasconi, and Watch Doge. We'll see you after IEM Katowice, and until then, take care of yourselves.